Chapter 4100. Device Spirit? Where can I find a device spirit? Zhuowen said with a wry smile. Am I not a device spirit? Besides, I have two device spirits, the blood immortal sword and the death sacrifice sword. It will be a piece of cake for me to help you fuse the two astral weapons. Xiao He suddenly said proudly. Zhuowen was stunned for a moment. Then, he became overjoyed and said, Xiao He, are you sure you can do it? It's worth a try. Recently, I have reached a bottleneck in my cultivation. The materials you gave me can no longer satisfy my cultivation. Maybe the astral weapon fragments will be the direction of my cultivation in the future. This attempt is also to verify my thoughts during this period. It's just an idea. Xiao He said calmly. Zhuowen nodded. Xiao He was a device cultivator and relied heavily on ores and materials. Although Zhuowen often gave the ores and materials he collected to Xiao He, they were not particularly precious or rare. Therefore, Xiao He's cultivation had been stagnant for a while, and he had been hovering around the God realm. However, if Xiao He could successfully refine the two astral weapons and become the device spirit, his cultivation would soar in a short time and he would not be weaker than him. With Zhuowen's permission, Xiao He took the blood immortal sword and the death sacrifice sword and entered the space of the evil ghost demonic wheel. Boy, we may need some time to refine the two astral weapons. You can leave first. Xiao He said to Zhuowen and began to concentrate on refining the evil ghost demonic wheel and the purple gold divine sword. Zhuowen shrugged. He knew as well that he couldn't interfere in this situation, so he tactfully retreated. I wonder how Master and the others are doing now? After leaving the space of the evil ghost demonic wheel, Zhuowen put the two astral weapon fragments into the macro world and took out the teleportation formation disc. A beam of white light enveloped Zhuowen, and he disappeared from this place. The third shortcut to the Hushu domain was an extremely remote ancient forest. In this ancient forest, ancient trees towered into the sky. It was verdant and lush. In the depths of the forest, huge flocks of birds would occasionally be startled. It was an extremely spectacular sight. At this moment, in the sky above the dense ancient forest, a stream of light quickly flew past. This stream of light was a divine ship. On the deck of the divine ship stood a group of people. However, these people looked dispirited, and the atmosphere on the deck was very heavy. Senior Marshal Brother Zhuo decided to stay behind and face Psycho Hongfei alone so that we could escape. Patriarch, we can't let down Senior Brother Zhuo's good intentions. Sammy was the first to break the silence. She spoke to the little lowly who was surrounded by the crowd and immersed in sorrow. Yes, Patriarch, don't be too sad. Junior Brother Zhuo, he would never do anything he wasn't confident in. The reason why he dared to stay behind must be because he has a trump card that can save his life. Tuo Xing also advised. Ever since Shan Lingyun had been sent to the third divine ship, she had not said a word. She had only silently cried and kept muttering Zhuowen's name. The Hushu tribesmen also learned about Zhuowen's heroic deeds from Sammy and the others. At this moment, Zhuowen's position in their hearts had reached an unprecedented height. He was not a member of the Huxley tribesmen, but he was willing to fight against a strong enemy for them. They were filled with respect and admiration for Zhuowen. Just as everyone was immersed in sorrow, a blazing white light suddenly lit up on the deck. Then, a young man slowly walked out from the white light. When everyone saw the young man's face, they all fell silent. The surroundings were completely silent. Shan Lingyun, whose face was originally covered in tears, trembled violently the moment she saw this figure. Then, she suddenly dashed forward and threw herself into the embrace of this figure. Disciple, am I still your master? Why didn't you discuss with me before making a decision? I thought I'd never see you again. Shan Lingyun's small fists continuously hammered Zhuowen's chest. Her voice was filled with resentment and joy at seeing him again. Sammy, Tuo Xing, and the rest of the Huxley tribesmen also came to their senses and revealed joyful smiles. This was because this figure was none other than Zhuowen. He's really something. I knew it. What kind of person was junior brother Zhuo? It was impossible for him to meet with misfortune so easily. Not even Saiku Hongfei. Tuoxing revealed a simple and honest smile. Sammy glanced at Tuoxing, then walked forward and gave Zhuowen a big hug. After a while, Shan Lingyun finally calmed down. She looked at Zhuowen with her big eyes and asked, "Disciple, how did you escape from Saiku Hongfei's hands?" Sammy, Tuoxing, and the rest also looked at Zhuowen curiously. Saiku Hongfei was the guardian of the Goldwater realm, a genuine expert of the great carefree realm. Even if he was seriously injured in the battle with Lu Yuanba, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill any ancient star transformations expert. However, not only did Zhuowen return, but he also looked unscathed. Everyone was very curious. Zhuowen put Shan Lingyun down, then scratched his head and said, "That? I didn't escape from Saiku Hongfei's hands." Senior Zhuo, what do you mean?" Sammy asked doubtfully. Everyone was also a little confused. If he didn't escape from Saiku Hongfei's hands, could it be that he let him go on his own accord? Basically, no one thought that Zhuowen could defeat Saiku Hongfei. After all, this was simply impossible. After all, the gap between the ancient star transformations and the great carefree realm was too big. It could be described as the difference between heaven and earth. I accidentally killed Saiku Hongfei. Zhuowen laughed dryly. Silence. The surroundings fell into a strange silence. Everyone stared at Zhuowen. "Disciple, this joke isn't funny," Shan Lingyun said speechlessly. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. He knew that no matter how he explained, it was unlikely that they would believe him. Therefore, he opened his right hand and a ball of light appeared in his palm. Within the ball of light was the ruins of a dilapidated Qian Kuan world. In the ruins, a weak godly spirit was curled up and shivering. "This is Saiku Hongfei." Everyone looked at the ball of light, and someone immediately recognized the owner of the godly spirit. After all, the appearance of a godly spirit was exactly the same as a real person. Everyone present had seen Saiku Hongfei before. Naturally, it was impossible for them not to recognize him. Everyone's gaze fell on Zhuowen again, and they couldn't help but gasp. Now, Zhuowen had even taken out Saiku Hongfei's godly spirit and Qian Kuan world. They knew that Zhuowen wasn't bragging. It was the truth. However, this truth was too absurd. Chapter 4101. After a long period of silence, the crowd finally confirmed that the ball of light in Zhuowen's hand was indeed Saiku Hongfei. Everyone looked at Zhuowen with respect and admiration. To be able to defeat a great carefree realm cultivator with ancient star transformation realm cultivation, this was probably a rarity in the entire 100 outer realms. However, all such monstrous geniuses were basically the most outstanding geniuses of extremely powerful domains. They might be able to do it, but most people simply could not. Yet, Zhuowen had done it. This meant that Zhuowen's talent and strength were in no way inferior to the true geniuses of the outer 100 domains. Disciple, with your strength, I'm afraid you can be ranked in the top 20 of the heavenly list. Shan Lingyun blinked her eyes and clicked her tongue. Outer realm heavenly ranking? What kind of ranking is that? Zhuowen asked curiously. It seems like you don't know anything about the outer realm heavenly ranking. Shan Lingyun had an expression as if she'd known this would happen, and then she continued. The so-called Outer World Heavenly Rankings is a ranking that lists the heaven-shattering realm experts with extremely formidable combat strength in the 100 outer worlds. Moreover, there are only 108 places on the Outer Realm Heavenly list. Most of the cultivators who can enter this list are masters at the peak of the ancient star realm. Many of them have already touched the threshold of the great carefree realm. They are all extraordinary. Zhuowen was startled. This was the first time he had heard of this so-called heavenly ranking. Then what is Patriarch Lu's ranking on the Beyond Realm heavenly ranking? Zhuowen looked at Shan Lingyun and asked. Lu Renjue was an expert at the pinnacle of the ancient star transformation realm. In the Hushu domain, other than the protector of the Hushu domain, Lu Yuanba, he could be considered the strongest expert in the entire domain. He was curious as to what ranking Lu Renren would obtain on the outer realm heavenly ranking. Shan Lingyun shook her head and said sadly, although Father is powerful, he is still a distance away from the real experts on the outer realm list. Hence, he is not on the list. What? Patriarch Lu is not qualified to enter the outer realm heavenly ranking? Zhuowen was really shocked. The outer realm's heavenly ranking is the most authoritative ranking in the outer realm's 100 territories. Among countless living beings, those who are able to enter the heavenly shattering realm are all peerless geniuses that are 1 in 10,000. Senior Brother Zhuo, you're thinking of this ranking too simply. Senior Zhuo, Zhuowen's name of the ancient heavenly ranking, Lu said, heavenly ranking of the outer realm heavenly list. Heaven-shattering heavenly tribulation. Of the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly Tao of the heavens. Zhuowen was also stunned. It seemed that the outer realm heavenly ranking really couldn't be underestimated. The reason why he was able to defeat Saiku Hongfei was because he had the advantage of time, place, and people. Moreover, Saiku Hongfei was heavily injured, which was why he was able to defeat him in the end. If Saiku Hongfei was still at his peak, he might not be a match for him. The top 10 of the outer realm heavenly ranking had actually killed a cultivator who had gone through the great tribulation of universe. This was really shocking. It seemed that the 100 outer realms was vast beyond his expectations. There were still many people who were stronger than him. Zhuowen also noticed that when the outer realm heavenly ranking was mentioned, the people of the Hushu tribe all revealed looks of reverence and yearning. The outer realm heavenly ranking was too valuable. At the same time, it was also the ranking with the most intense competition. After all, in the 100 outer realms, there were the most heaven-shattering realm cultivators. Among the many heaven-shattering realm cultivators, there would always be a super genius who would stand out and enter the outer realm heavenly ranking. Master, who created this ranking? Do you have a detailed list of names? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Shan Lingyun shook her head and said, I don't have a list of names on the outer realm heavenly ranking. Normally, the stone tablets of the outer realm heavenly ranking are built in the realms where the geniuses who have entered the outer realm heavenly ranking were born. Our Hushu realm is too weak and has never had such geniuses. Therefore, we don't have the qualifications to build a stone tablet of the outer realm heavenly ranking. Also, this outer realm heavenly ranking was created by the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Zhuowen's pupils constricted. He had inadvertently seen the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy in the many books in the scripture pavilion of Hongwu Shengzhen. It was said that a very long time ago, the 100 outer realms didn't have the concept of realms. It was still in a chaotic era where there were endless disputes and raging wars. In that era, the 100 outer realms was a wasteland. There were no rules and no order. There was only killing and the law of the jungle. Later on, a stream of light fell from the immemorial star system that hung high in the sky and landed in the 100 outer realms. From then on, a mysterious cultivator appeared in the 100 outer realms. With his own strength, he calmed all the disputes in the 100 outer realms and established supreme authority with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He was worshipped by all living beings. He straightened out the moral code, calmed the people's hearts, established laws, and enforced rules. From then on, the development of the 100 outer realms was on the right track. They were divided into realms. Each realm had its own protector, and various large clans were born. With the continuous development of these clans and the help of the primordial stone, they developed many lower realms. It could be said that the source of all of this came from that mysterious cultivator. after the mysterious cultivator had completely unified the 100 outer realms, he took in 5 disciples and gave a part of his orthodoxy to the 5 of them. After that, he left mysteriously. Those 5 disciples founded the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. It could be said that the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy was the symbol of that mysterious cultivator. From then on, there was no more news of that mysterious cultivator in the 100 outer realms. However, legends about him circulated in the 100 outer realms for a long time. It was because of this relationship that the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy had an extremely special status in the 100 outer realms. It was revered and worshipped by all living beings. Of course, the reason why the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy stood tall was not only because of the mysterious cultivator, but also because it was extremely powerful. In the various realms, countless young geniuses were proud to enter the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Moreover, any genius who could cultivate in the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy would basically become an expert of the great carefree realm in the future. With such a high status, the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy established the outer realms Heavenly Tao ranking naturally had great authority. Disciple, with your current strength, as long as you can challenge a genius on the outer realms Heavenly Tao ranking and defeat them to enter the outer realms Heavenly Tao Academy, the people from the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy will immediately contact you and recruit you into the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Yun Yun said excitedly. The surrounding Hushu clan members were also extremely excited. That was the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy, the holy land that they dreamed of. They also thought that with Zhuowen's talent and strength, it would not be difficult for him to join the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Zhuowen shook his head. The immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy's origin was too great. It was said that its founder came from the immemorial star system. If Zhuowen joined such a holy land of inheritance, he would definitely benefit greatly. Chapter 4102. My dear disciple, this is a good opportunity. Are you going to give up just like that? Shan Lingyun saw Zhuowen shaking his head and felt that it was unbelievable. Master, you know what my priority is right now, right? Zhuowen suddenly said. Shan Lingyun was stunned and then hesitated. My dear disciple, are you going to look for that lady called Moyan Wushang? Shan Lingyun naturally understood that Zhuowen had looked for her mainly to use her soul speech technique to calculate Moyan Wushang's exact location. If Shan Lingyun had not been suddenly captured by Huxley, Zhuowen might have been on the way to the New Realm instead of following them to face Huxley's extermination. Zhuowen's eyes carried a trace of reminiscence as he nodded gently. My dear disciple, let me go to the New Realm with you. After all, my soul speech technique is much more advanced than yours. I can definitely help a lot. Shan Lingyun said proudly. Zhuowen was simply too outstanding. However, Dan Lingyun still felt a sense of pride that she was able to frustrate Zhuowen in the aspect of the spirit language technique. Zhuowen was stunned and then shook his head. Master, if we are not going the same way, there is no need for you to follow me. Moreover, you are now the new leader of Huxley. The burden is heavy. Shan Lingyun sighed rather dispiritedly when she heard this. She really did not want to accept the position of the leader. However, due to the circumstances, she was the only suitable candidate. All right. The leader left me a letter. He told us to open the letter after we leave. If we can't leave, we have to destroy it. Zhuowen suddenly thought of something. He flipped his right palm and a beautifully bound letter appeared in his palm. Let's open it and take a look. Shan Lingyun took the letter and glanced at Zhuowen. Seeing the latter nod his head, she opened the letter. The surface of the letter was obviously sealed by some kind of power. Shan Lingyun did not open it at first. This is a blood seal. Only the blood essence of Huxley's people can open it. Sa Mei reminded her. Shan Lingyun blushed. She had been in Huxley for too short a time, so she did not recognize this blood seal. Thus, under everyone's gaze, Shan Lingyun bit her finger and squeezed out a drop of blood essence, and dripped it on the letter. A ray of golden light appeared on the surface of the letter, and then the seal on the surface gradually dissipated. Shan Lingyun hurriedly opened the envelope. There was a piece of golden paper inside, and the words on it were emitting a faint glow. The general content of the letter was that Zhuo Wen and Shan Lingyun were to lead the rest of their people to the Sorcerer Realm after the Hushu Divine City was finally breached. The Witch God world was located in the south of the 100 Domains. Although it was also a low-level world, its foundation was much stronger than the Huxley world. There was no other reason. The Magus God realm had 2 experts at the Universe Tribulation realm. Ordinary low-level realms really did not dare to provoke such a tough opponent. Lu Renjue asked his people to go to the Witch God world because his sister, Lu Yingying, was the cultivation partner of the Witch God clan's leader. Lu Yingying was also a member of Huxley. She was also Shan Lingyun's aunt. Thus, it was the best choice for the Huxley world to go to the Witch God clan. Shan Lingyun did not hide the contents of the letter from everyone. She made it public. Everyone was relieved when they found out that they were going to the Witch God clan where Lu Yingying was from. Although Lu Yingying was married, she was a native of the Huxley world. Thus, she would definitely take them in and help them revive Huxley in the future. My disciple, you will pass by the Witch God world on your way to the Nuwa world. Why don't you follow us to the Witch God world? After we settle down, I will go with you to find your little lover. Shan Lingyun said with a smile. Zhuowen rolled his eyes at Shan Lingyun. After thinking for a while, he nodded. Shan Lingyun was right. The Witch God world was on the way to the Nuwa world. They were all in the south of the 100 Domains. Thus, he did not need to part ways with the Huxley world so early. All right. I will go with you to the Witch God world, Zhuowen said with a nod. The distance between the Witch God world and the Huxley world is more than 10 domains. If we use the ancient teleportation formation, we will have to transfer at least 10 times. The cost is very expensive. Moreover, there are so many of us. The teleportation formation will not be very effective. That's a good choice, Sa Mei suddenly said. Zhuowen shrugged and gave everyone a helpless expression. He was the one who knew the least about the 100 outer territories among this group of people, so he naturally couldn't think of any good ideas. The only way is to ride the spacetime beast to the Witch God world. This is the most practical and convenient way. Shan Lingyun suddenly said. The spacetime beast can only be tamed in mid-level domains and above. If we want to ride the spacetime beast, we must go to mid-level domains and above, Tuoxing said in a low voice. I have calculated that the closest mid-level domain to us should be the light domain. At our current speed, we will only need 2 months to reach the light domain. Shan Lingyun said. Everyone nodded and agreed with Shan Lingyun's suggestion. They planned to go to the light domain first. After the itinerary was arranged, everyone dispersed and returned to their rooms to cultivate. Some of them gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to chat. Zhuowen said goodbye to Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and Tuoxing and returned to his cabin. After setting up the seal, Zhuowen entered the parallel world. In the parallel world, the scenery was beautiful and lush. In many areas, there were already living creatures such as birds and beasts. The only imperfection was that his parallel world had yet to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. However, Zhuowen knew that when his strength continued to increase, his parallel world would become stronger and more advanced. By then, he might be able to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. By then, these native humans would worship him as a god and develop their own civilization and system. At this moment, Zhuowen had the illusion that he was the supreme creator of the universe. Zhuowen shook his head and laughed at himself. He felt that he was indulging in fantasy. Although his big world was indeed very strange, it was only a primary world. Unless he could create a universe, Perhaps only then could he really be considered a creator of the universe. After Zhuowen shook off the strange thoughts in his mind, he landed on the island in the middle of the parallel world. Chapter 4103. Zhuowen, what do you want to do? Inside the trapping array, two beautiful women were bound and unable to move. However, the moment the two women saw Zhuowen, they revealed a look of fear. These two were naturally Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had been captured alive by Zhuowen in the Ghost King Ridge. Originally, Zhuowen had captured the two of them alive only to use them as hostages so that the patriarchs of the three great clans would hesitate to attack. Unfortunately, the three great clans had taken action before he left the Ghost King Ridge and completely shed all pretense of cordiality. What happened next was naturally without suspense. After Zhuowen had successfully broken through the ancient star transformation, he had cleanly destroyed all the elite experts of the three great clans, including the patriarchs of the three great clans. Don't act recklessly. My master is the patriarch of God's Eye, Leng Yanyu. If he finds out that you dared to imprison us, you'll be finished. If you still want to live, you'd better let us go. Lung Feifei shouted. Jian Wuqing's eyes were cold. Although she did not speak, a trace of fearless arrogance flashed in her eyes. Obviously, her thoughts were similar to Lung Feifei's. Haha, are you so fearless because of your masters, Leng Yanyu and Xiao Zihui? Zhuowen mocked. What do you mean? I admit that you are indeed strong, but your cultivation has only broken through the ancient star transformation not long ago. However, the gap between you and our masters is still too big. You are no match for them. Let us go and we can let bygones be bygones and let you leave alive. Leave this place alive. Jian Wuqing said calmly. Ridiculous, you probably don't know yet. Yuri, Leng Yanyu and Xiao Zihui have already been defeated by me. Don't you think it's ridiculous for you to threaten me with them? Zhuowen said indifferently. Impossible. You must be lying. Lung Feifei shook her head and sneered. Zhuowen did not continue to argue with Lung Feifei. Instead, he waved his sleeve and three figures landed at his feet in a sorry state. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing turned towards the source of the voice, and their faces stiffened. This was because these three sorry figures were none other than the patriarchs of the three great clans, as well as their masters. Yuri, Xiao Zihui, and Leng Yanyu were covered in dust. All of their cultivation had been sealed in their bodies by Zhuowen. At this moment they were like ordinary people, unable to use any strength. The three of them naturally saw Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing looking at them in disbelief. They could not help but lower their heads as shame flashed in their eyes. Now, do you still think I'm lying? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing fell silent. Their eyes were still filled with shock and disbelief. This Zhuowen actually defeated the patriarchs of the three great clans. How did he do it? Zhuowen, you're too presumptuous. Aren't you afraid that our realm guardian will take revenge? Huxley has been completely defeated. This is the trend. You're not even a member of the Hushu clan, so why do you have to protect Huxley? Yuri said with a sense of superiority in his eyes. This was because he still had a final trump card, which was the Realm Guardian. As long as their Realm Guardian was still around, no matter how strong Zhuowen was, he would not be able to do anything to their Realm Guardian. This was also the advantage they had in negotiating with Zhuowen. Patriarch Yu is right. Zhuowen, as long as you let us go and apologize, we won't pursue any responsibility against you. Leng Yanyu echoed. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had originally fallen silent, had their eyes lit up again. That's right, they still have the domain protector. That's what they really rely on. Bang! Suddenly, Yuri groaned and fell to the ground. Lung Feifei and the others realized that Zhuowen had unknowingly raised his foot and ruthlessly stepped on Yuri's head. The unlucky Yuri's face came into extremely intimate contact with the ground. His entire face was about to plunge into the ground. Zhuowen, you! Yuri was furious and struggled with all his might. Unfortunately, his cultivation had been sealed, so struggling was futile. Realm Guardian? I'm sorry, but your Jinshui clan's Realm Guardian, Psycho Hongfei, has already been defeated by me, Zhuowen said indifferently. Yuri was taken aback for a moment before bursting into laughter. Zhuowen, you really dare to say that? Lord Saiku is an expert of the Great Qian Kuan Tribulation. Who do you think you are? You even said that you defeated him. I think you saw him from afar and immediately ran away in panic. Because you ran away like a stray dog, Zhuowen sneered. With a flip of his right hand, he took out a ball of light. His right hand reached into the ball of light and suddenly squeezed. A shrill scream rang out from the ball of light. Saiku Hongfei's spirit, who had been trembling in the ruins of the great Qian Kuan world, was pulled out. Saiku Hongfei, your descendants said that I would immediately run away like a stray dog when I saw you. I wonder if you agree with this view or not? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Saiku Hongfei's spirit trembled. He looked at Zhuowen with fear and hatred, but did not dare to meet Zhuowen's eyes. The young man in front of him was simply too terrifying. Moreover, his spirit was now in the hands of this boy. If the latter wanted to destroy him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. How could that be? Lord Zhuo, you are a true genius. Even I have to take a detour when I see you. How could I let you run away? Saiku Hongfei's face was pale. He revealed a fawning smile and said softly. At the same time, the moment Saiku Hongfei's spirit was forcibly pulled out by Zhuowen, Yuri and the others involuntarily looked at the spirit. Then, their gazes instantly froze. Immediately after, they sucked in a deep breath of cold air. Old ancestor? Yuri's face was full of disbelief. He trembled as he called out tentatively. Senior Saiku? Xiao Zihue, Ling Yinyu and the others were also dumbfounded. They even rubbed their eyes, suspecting that there was something wrong with their eyes. But when they realized that what they saw was not an illusion, they only felt a sense of suffocation engulf their bodies. An expert like Saiku Hongfei could actually smile like a weakling, and this smile was directed at Zhuowen, whom they did not care much about. They finally discovered that Saiku Hongfei's physical body no longer existed. What appeared before them was a dim and lightless spirit. They were not fools. They immediately realized that Saiku Hongfei had indeed been defeated by Zhuowen, and his spirit had not been able to escape and had been captured by Zhuowen. Chapter 4104. After a round of scolding, Saiku Hongfei finally put on a fawning smile and said to Zhuowen, Lord Zhuowen, ignorance is blameless. You don't have to be so calculative with him. Yuri's face alternated between green and white, and he fell completely silent. At this moment, his heart was filled with despair, and he was so scared that he could barely stand. What kind of monster was this Zhuowen? Even the guardian of the Goldwater realm had been defeated by him, and his life was in danger at any moment. Zhuowen coldly glanced at Saiku Hongfei. He knew very well what the latter was planning. Now, do you still think I'm talking big? Zhuowen's gaze fell on Yuri, and he grinned. Seeing the smile on Zhuowen's face, Yuri felt a chill in his heart. He didn't dare to meet Zhuowen's gaze, and he didn't say a word. Zhuowen's smile became even colder. He grabbed Yuri's head and lifted him up. What are you doing? Yuri's expression changed drastically, and he struggled to speak. Zhuowen's expression was cold, and he didn't answer Yuri's question. A powerful divine power poured out of his palm and poured into Yuri's head. Splat! Yuri's face twitched, and he struggled with all his might like a living fish on a dry riverbed. But all of this was useless. Before long, Yuri was bleeding from all of his orifices, and his divine soul had been completely annihilated by Zhuowen's power. Bang! Zhuowen casually tossed Yuri's corpse to the side. Xiao Zihue, Ling Yinyu, and the others felt a chill run down their spines, and involuntarily knelt in front of Zhuowen. Lord Zhuo, I beg you to let us live. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai just now. Please be magnanimous and forgive us this time. At this moment, Xiao Zihui, Leng Yanyu, and the others had already abandoned their dignity. They had cultivated for countless years to achieve what they had today. They did not want to die like this, so they simply knelt down and begged Zhuowen for mercy. But they were met with a long silence. Zhuowen looked down at Xiao Zihui and the others. The reason why he killed Yuri was to make an example of him. What he did was obviously very effective. Xiao Zihui, Leng Yanyu, and the others who were originally unconvinced finally felt fear. And when a person was afraid, it was also when they were most vulnerable. If you want to live, then hand over your spiritual imprint. If you don't, I don't mind letting you meet Yuri in the underworld, Zhuowen said calmly. Xiao Zihui, Leng Yanyu, and the others hesitated for a moment, then decisively handed over their spiritual imprints. When Zhuowen's gaze fell on Saikou Hongfei, who was in his spiritual imprint state, the latter only felt his scalp go numb. He sighed in his heart and also handed over his spiritual imprint. He knew very well that if he dared to be stubborn with Zhuowen's means just now, he would kill him. After putting away Saikou Hongfei and the others' spiritual imprints, Zhuowen nodded with satisfaction and said with a faint smile, "You are very sensible. As a reward, I plan to let you go." What? Saikou Hongfei, Xiao Zihui, and the others were stunned. They suspected that there was something wrong with their ears. Zhuowen actually let them go after taking away their spiritual imprint. What did this mean? Master Zhuo, you're not joking with us, are you? Leng Yanyu asked doubtfully. Do I look like I'm joking? Zhuowen said coldly. Leng Yanyu quickly shut up and did not dare to say anything more. Don't worry, I'm not joking. I, Zhuowen, always do what I say. However, after I let you go, I have a request, Zhuowen said calmly. Saikou Hongfei and the others looked at each other. They did not have the slightest joy of being released. Instead, they were filled with uneasiness. After you go back, you are not allowed to reveal anything about me. You must first swear to the heavenly Tao, Zhuowen said seriously. Although Saikou Hongfei did not know what Zhuowen's purpose was, he knew that he could only do as he said. After they swore to the heavenly Tao, he waved his right hand and brought the 5 of them out of the macro world and onto the deck of the divine ship. At this moment, the deck of the divine ship was basically empty except for the people who were steering it. Most of the people had entered their cabins to cultivate in seclusion. Zhuowen took out 4 array discs and handed them to Xiao Zihui, Leng Yanyu, Leng Feifei, and Jian Wuqing. These are the teleportation array discs. After you activate them, these array discs will transport you to the Hushu realm. You can go now, Zhuowen said expressionlessly. Xiao Zihui and the others were completely dumbfounded. They really did not understand what Zhuowen was planning. Although they were confused, since Zhuowen had let them go, they naturally would not miss this opportunity. After thanking Zhuowen, the 4 of them activated the array discs and turned into 4 streaks of light, disappearing from the deck. After the 4 of them left, Zhuowen's gaze fell on the uneasy Saikou Hongfei. Saikou Hongfei, take these 4 divine soul marks. With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen took out the divine soul marks of Xiao Zihui and the others and handed them to Saikou Hongfei. This, Master, what are you? Saikou Hongfei looked at the 4 divine soul marks in his hand, his expression full of doubt and uneasiness. Saikou Hongfei, a wise man submits to circumstances. I leave the life and death of Xiao Zihui and the others to you. However, I have an important task for you. If you can complete this task, I will set you free, Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Are you serious? Saikou Hongfei asked hurriedly, his body trembling with excitement. Of course. Saikou Hongfei calmed down, looked at Zhuowen, and asked, Master, what do you want me to do? After you return to the Goldwater realm, Help me monitor the Divine Eye Realm and the Purple Illusion Realm. You have to report any situation to me. When your injuries are completely healed, I need your strength to help me destroy Zhu Yangqi, Ling Xinghai, and the Ghost King. Zhuowen said. Saiku Hongfei's pupils shrank. He did not expect Zhuowen to be so ambitious. He actually wanted to destroy Zhu Yangqi and Ling Xinghai. Whether it was Zhu Yangqi or Ling Xinghai, their cultivations were not weaker than his. Although Zhuowen had defeated him before, that was when he was extremely weak, and he had coincidentally encountered Zhuowen's terrifying tribulation. In the end, he was defeated by Zhuowen. The Ghost King's true strength was definitely not weaker than Lu Yuanba's. In fact, he was even stronger. It was extremely difficult to destroy such an expert. What? You're not willing? Zhuowen glanced at the hesitant Saiku Hongfei and said coldly. Saiku Hongfei sighed softly in his heart. He knew that he had no choice but to stand on Zhuowen's side. I'll leave Xiao Zihui and the others to you. After I return to the Hushu realm, the four of them must cooperate with us. No matter what method you use, you must make them betray their clans. If you can't do this well, wait for me to return. When I return, your head will fall to the ground. Zhuowen's eyes burst with cold killing intent as he looked coldly at Saiku Hongfei. Chapter 4105. Recover your cultivation as soon as you return. If you can't help me after I return to the Hushu realm, I think you know better than me what will happen to you. Zhuowen took out a formation disc and tossed it to Saiku Hongfei before he spoke with a cold expression. Saiku Hongfei put away the formation disc. His heart trembled and he nodded and bowed. Go! Zhuowen waved his hand. After receiving Zhuowen's order, Saiku Hongfei carefully took out the teleportation formation disc, turned into a white light, and disappeared from the deck. Zhuowen came to the edge of the deck and looked in the direction of the Hushu realm. In Huxley, the patriarchs fought to the death like moths to a flame. He also saw the expressions of the 3 great protectors and the 9 kings, who gave up their lives for the Hushu divine city. He also saw Lu Renjue's words before he died. At this moment, they appeared in his mind, vivid in his mind. He wasn't a member of Huxley's clan, and he didn't even have much of a relationship with Huxley. But when he thought of these tragic scenes in his mind, he was deeply moved. These people who were willing to give up for their clansmen and beliefs were worthy of his respect. When his cultivation reached the level where he could truly kill a tribulation of universe expert, he would return to the Hushu realm and help Huxley rebuild their home. When that time came, he would go to the Pangu realm and seek justice for the countless members of the Pangu clan. Although he had no obligation to do so, he was willing to do what he could for these honorable people. In the following period of time, Zhuowen focused on cultivating in his cabin, consolidating his newly advanced ancient star transformation realm cultivation. A month later, Zhuowen abruptly opened his eyes, and his gaze was filled with joy. With a thought, he turned into a stream of light and entered the great world. In the sky above the island at the center of the great world, the fusion of the violet gold divine sword and the demon wheel had finally entered the final stage. At this moment, both the violet gold divine sword and the demon wheel had melted into liquid. The violet gold divine sword had turned into a purple gold liquid, while the demon wheel had turned into a pitch-black liquid. The 2 liquids floated in the air, mixing and merging with each other. At this moment, Xiao He, the blood immortal sword, and the sacrificial death sword's weapon spirits were looking at the 2 liquids with serious expressions. Xiao He and the other 2 were constantly performing extremely complicated hand seals. One after another, runes that Zhuowen could not understand surged out from their hand seals and landed on the surface of the 2 liquid. As these strange runes landed on the liquid, the fusion speed of the 2 liquids that were originally fusing immediately sped up. Time slowly passed. Approximately 2 hours later, under the support of these strange symbols, the purple-gold liquid and the black-colored liquid finally completely merged together. In midair, the fused liquid was a strange mixture of purple, black, and gold that constantly alternated with each other. Xiao He, who had a grave expression on her face, finally relaxed a little. Naturally, he also noticed Zhuowen, who was observing them from a short distance away. Xiao He chuckled and said, "Boy, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. The two types of astral weapons have finally completely merged together. Now, this is the original liquid of the astral weapon. In a few days, I will be able to forge this new astral weapon fragment. Speaking of which, what kind of weapon do you plan to forge this new astral weapon into? Is it still a divine sword?" The corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth revealed a hint of a smile, and he nodded and said, "It's still in the style of a divine sword. Also, Xiao He, are you sure you want to become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon?" Zhuo Wen's expression suddenly became serious. He knew too little about the astral weapon fragment. Even the raw materials used to forge this astral weapon were extremely mysterious. He could not recognize them at all. He thought that Xiao He's sudden decision to become the weapon spirit of the astral weapon fragment was filled with too many unknowns. Xiao He grinned and said, "Don't worry. Have you forgotten that when you obtained the first astral weapon fragment, I had already started to study this thing? Although the material of the astral weapon fragment is extremely mysterious, and even I can't understand it, after such a long time of research, it's not like I didn't gain anything at all. In addition, your primordial stone can suppress the power of the astral weapon. The astral weapon will merge into one. It can be said that no matter how low the level of the astral weapon in your hands is, its potential is endless. And as a weapon cultivator, this endless possibility is the most suitable material for me." Although Zhuowen was still a little worried, what Xiao He said was indeed the truth. As a weapon cultivator, Xiao He's talent was actually not that great, and he did not have Zhuowen's luck. If there were no accidents, Xiao He's highest achievement would only be the heaven-breaking realm. If he wanted to continue to break through and enter the great carefree realm, it would probably be very difficult. But the astral weapon had opened another door for him, and this door was endless potential. If Xiao He could succeed, then his achievements would be very astonishing. "Xiao He, be careful. I'll be here to guard you. If there's an accident, I'll take action immediately," Zhuowen said with a solemn expression. Xiao He nodded, and there was gentleness in the depths of his eyes. "Let's not talk for now. This Dragon Lord is going to refine this astral weapon first. Before I enter, I must forge the divine sword." As Xiao He spoke, he swept back to the ball of liquid and began to refine the astral weapon. That ball of liquid was rebellious, and it emitted extremely terrifying power ripples that spread in all directions. Fortunately, Zhuowen had given Xiao He the Great Word Stone and Great Word Stone to protect Xiao He and the others. Therefore, they were not too affected by this powerful energy ripple. As time passed, the astral weapon source liquid gradually took shape under the efforts of Xiao He and the others, and it began to take the shape of a sword embryo. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, after another month, the sword embryo was finally refined into an incomparably sharp divine sword. The divine sword was pitch black, and on the pitch-black sword body, there was a purple-gold light that wandered back and forth on the surface of the divine sword like water ripples. It looked full of mystery and noble elegance. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that the pressure emitted by this sword was extremely powerful. He could clearly feel that the moment this sword was forged, the whole world seemed to shake, and then countless creatures knelt on the ground one after another, crying in fear and grief. Sure enough, after fusing with the evil ghost devil wheel, the divine sword really reached the level of a 7th-rank astral weapon, Zhuowen said to himself in surprise. Roar! Chapter 4106. Xiao He, He's planning to take over the sword. Zhuowen looked at Xiao He, who had revealed his true form, and his gaze suddenly became much more serious. Now was the most critical moment. If Xiao He could successfully take over and become the sword spirit of the sword, then the power of the sword would increase. In that case, the sword's power would rise to a whole new level, and it would also become more spiritual. It would no longer be like before, where it was like an inanimate object. Whoosh! The black dragon roared and fell from the sky, completely entering the black sword. Then, Zhuowen saw that the surface of the black sword, which had been motionless before, suddenly surged with intense purple, black, and gold light. The intense light seemed to be able to pierce through the entire sky. The entire macro world was enveloped by the three-colored light, and it was everywhere. At the same time, the black divine sword began to go berserk, erupting with extremely terrifying energy and rampaging in the macro world. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. Fortunately, he was already prepared. He took out several array discs. Instantly, the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was enveloped by powerful array patterns, forming a terrifying cage. The black sword was extremely terrifying. It swept to the edge of the array and suddenly slashed out. Terrifying sword light swept out like a tsunami, instantly crushing many array patterns. Zhuowen's gaze was serious, but he did not panic. Instead, he moved all 10 of his fingers and began to set up new array patterns to strengthen the defensive power of the array. Wherever the black sword destroyed, Zhuowen quickly repaired it. He was barely able to trap the black sword, preventing it from rushing out and destroying the rest of the macro world. Roar! 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 At the same time, waves of dragon roars came from the black sword. Obviously, it would not be easy for Xiao He to take over the black sword completely. Little blood, little still. Quickly come and help me. Not long after, Xiao He's anxious voice came from the black sword. Then, the weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword, who were watching the battle, rushed into the array without hesitation and entered the black sword. Boom! Boom! Black sword struggled even more intensely, but Zhuowen could feel that black sword's aura was gradually weakening. As time passed, black sword's struggles became much weaker, like a sickly and withered seedling. Clang! Not long after, the black sword's aura became faintly discernible, and it fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Zhuowen silently looked at black sword, but he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that Xiao He and the others had succeeded. Sure enough, not long after, the originally weak black sword's aura suddenly changed, rising steadily. An intense dragon roar continuously resounded from the black sword, piercing through the clouds. At the same time, on the surface of the black sword that was as smooth as a mirror, the pattern of a black dragon slowly appeared. It looked very lifelike. Whoosh! The black sword soared into the sky and floated in front of Zhuowen. Its aura was no longer overbearing, but rather much more intimate. Kid, what do you think? I was right, wasn't I? I can become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon. Xiao He flew out of black sword, sat on the sword hilt, and looked at Zhuowen proudly. The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword were like standard underlings, standing on both sides of Xiao He, without blinking. Zhuowen gave Xiao He a thumbs up. This time, Xiao He had indeed contributed the most to the successful fusion of the two astral weapons. It seems that after becoming the weapon spirit of this astral weapon, you will gain a lot of benefits. Zhuowen sized up Xiao He. He keenly noticed that Xiao He's aura had become stronger than before, and he was probably not far from a breakthrough. Hee, the benefits of an astral weapon are indeed great. I just took control of it, and its surging energy rushed into my body. I'm afraid that I will soon break through the demonic transformation. Xiao He was very happy. Zhuowen nodded. With the help of the astral weapon, Zhuowen believed that Xiao He would break through again in a short period of time, reaching the ancient star transformation, and even reaching the threshold of the great calamity of heaven and earth. After all, the weapon that Xiao He took control of was a rank 7 astral weapon, and its power was extraordinary. Oh right, because Little Blood Fairy and Little G refined this sword with me, they seem to have become part of the weapon spirit of this sword. Xiao He suddenly said, looking a little embarrassed. Zhuowen looked at the blood immortal sword and the sacrifice of death sword, who were standing respectfully behind Blackie. Sensing Zhuowen's gaze, the two weapon spirits smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly nodded and bowed. It's good to have their help. You can quickly master this sword. Zhuowen nodded and did not say anything. The weapon spirits of the Blood Fairy sword and the Death Sacrifice sword let out a sigh of relief. Xiao He nodded and continued, "Oh right, boy. The power of this sword should be above the evil ghost demonic wheel. Why don't you give it a name? After all, this will be your exclusive astral weapon in the future." Zhuowen was stunned. Speaking of which, ever since he'd obtained the astral weapon and discovered the fusion function of the astral weapon from the primordial stone, even though he'd fused it several times, he seemed to have never given the astral weapon a name. Zhuowen thought for a while and said with a smile, "Then let's call it the Taiyu Sacred Sword." Hearing this, Xiao He could not help but be a little stunned. Then, he laughed and said, "That's a good name. The Taiyu Sacred Sword suits my name very well. Okay, I'll go first. You two slowly familiarize yourselves with this sword. When you have completely mastered it, let me know," Zhuowen said with a smile. "Got it," Xiao He said casually. Looking at Zhuowen's back, a trace of gentleness and gratitude flashed in his eyes. This boy really came up with this name. "Boss, you are the Taiyu Sacred Dragon, and this sword is called the Taiyu Sacred Sword. It suits you so well." Yes. This sword was specially made for you, boss. In the future, you will be the leader of the weapon cultivators. As your followers, we feel very proud." The weapon spirits of the Blood Fairy sword and the Death Sacrifice sword gathered in front of Xiao He and kept flattering him. Go, go, go. Now that the two of you are part of the Taiyu Sacred Sword's weapon spirits, follow me in the future and you will naturally live a good life. As long as I have meat to eat, I will definitely give you soup." Xiao He smiled proudly and re-entered the Taiyu Sacred Sword, surrounded by the two weapon spirits. After all, this sword was a fragment of a level 7 astral weapon, and its power could not be underestimated. If they wanted to master this sword, they had to cultivate and become stronger as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the time came, they, as weapon spirits, could not control this sword. Wouldn't they become decorations? After Zhuowen left the great world, there was a knock on the cabin door. When he opened the door, he found Sa Mei standing outside. "Senior Zhuo, we are almost at the Radiant Realm. The Patriarch asked me to call you up," Sa Mei said. Chapter 4107. On the deck of the ship, Huxley's people had already gathered together. In front of this group of people, Shan Lingyun's petite figure formed a strong contrast. Although Shan Lingyun was a little girl, she had a strong aura. As she stood there, Huxley's people stood respectfully and did not dare to say a word. When Zhuowen came to the deck, he saw this strange scene. The moment the little girl saw Zhuowen, all the restraint on her face disappeared. She revealed an extremely bright smile. Immediately after, Zhuowen helplessly realized that Shan Lingyun was walking over quickly. She jumped up and rode on Zhuowen's shoulder. "Disciple, you are really too much. In this 1 month, you have been in seclusion. I went to look for you a few times, but you did not respond. Are you that busy?" Shan Lingyun's cheeks were puffed up. She seemed to be angry. Zhuowen scratched his head and could only explain casually. Only then did this little girl calm down. On the other hand, the Huxley's people were not surprised by this scene. They all cupped their hands and bowed to Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded slightly. He carried Shan Lingyun and came to the bow of the ship. "Junior Zhuo, The border of the light boundary is right in front. After all, the light boundary is a middle-level boundary. It is not like a low-level boundary. Its security is much tighter. At the border, there are powerful cultivator armies stationed there. Tuo Xing came to Zhuowen's side and pointed to the front as he said in a low voice. Zhuowen looked in the direction that Tuo Xing was pointing at. There, he saw an extremely vast territory. Moreover, there was not a single place in this territory that was dark. Almost every place was filled with intense light. The light boundary is inhabited by the light tribe. They are born with the ability to dispel darkness. Moreover, the light boundary is rich in fluorite. Therefore, almost all the buildings in the light boundary are built with fluorite. Tuo Xing looked at Zhuowen with a look of surprise. He quickly explained with a surprised look on his face. All the buildings are built with fluorite. How rich! Zhuowen clicked his tongue in wonder. He had been in the 100 outer domains for so long, so he naturally knew how expensive fluorite was. In many low-level places, an entire tribe's method of dispelling the darkness was always to use a stone statue made of fluorite. Moreover, these stone statues were usually passed down from generation to generation, and were regarded as the treasures of the clan. Even some of the major forces were not so extravagant that almost every building was built with fluorite. However, the light domain was excessively extravagant. All the buildings in the entire domain were made of fluorite. This was indeed a little extravagant. Of course, this was also because the radiant domain had a huge fluorite vein. We're here. As Tuo Xing spoke, the divine ship slowly descended. What appeared in front of them was a huge city wall that was emitting light. At this moment, the cultivator army within the city walls also discovered Zhuo Wen's group of uninvited guests. Someone immediately led a group of cultivators to stop in front of the divine ship. Who are you? The leader of the cultivator army was a middle-aged man. His body was sturdy and his aura was full. There were fiend god shadows surging around him. He was an expert in the fiend god transformation realm. Zhuowen was shocked because an expert in the fiend god transformation realm was only the leader of a small team. If this were the Hushu domain, such an expert would have already taken up an important position in the core region of the Hushu domain. There was no way he would just be a small team leader at the border. It seems that a mid-level domain's foundation is much deeper than a low-level domain's. Zhuowen sighed inwardly, then led the group down the divine ship. The middle-aged man stared intently at Zhuowen. He discovered that the latter's aura was extremely vigorous, far stronger than his own. He knew that the youth in front of him was definitely an ancient star transformation realm expert. Therefore, his expression became rather serious, and he was no longer as casual as before. Zhuowen cupped his hands at the middle-aged man and said with a smile, "Brother, we are from the Hushu domain and have specially come to the light domain to seek refuge. I hope that you can make an exception for us." As he spoke, Zhuowen took out a heaven-breaking level 7 divine medicine and secretly handed it to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's brows twitched slightly, and he kept the divine medicine without a trace. There was a trace of a smile on his face. "So you're here to seek refuge. I've heard that the Hushu domain is not very peaceful, but if you want to enter the light domain, you have to pay a border crossing fee, and it's calculated by the number of people." The middle-aged man's tone was gentle. Zhuowen looked at Tuo Xing beside him. Seeing the latter nod, he knew that the middle-aged man was not trying to extort him. "How many crystals?" Zhuowen asked. 3 million crystals per person. The middle-aged man said indifferently. "What? I remember that the border crossing fee to the light domain is only 1 million crystals. Why is it 3 million crystals now?" Tuo Xing frowned slightly. The middle-aged man was obviously very displeased with Tuo Xing's tone. He snorted coldly and said, "That was the price in the past. Recently, the Light Clan has issued a new decree, which clearly states that the border crossing fee has been raised to 3 million crystals. After all, there are many refugees from the Hushu domain, and it's not a big deal for you. If you think it's too expensive, please leave. The middle-aged man said impatiently. Zhuan frowned slightly. It seemed that the light domain was taking the opportunity to earn money from the refugees of the Hushu domain. This temporary increase in the border crossing fee was obviously targeted at the cultivators who had fled from the Hushu domain. Okay. We'll calculate according to this price. Zhuan waved his sleeve, took out a large pile of chaos crystals, and handed them to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man checked and found that there was no mistake. He put away the crystals and said indifferently, "You can go in." Zhuan nodded and led everyone back to the divine ship, while the middle-aged man opened the restriction at the border. Whoosh! The divine ship turned into a stream of light and rushed into the light domain. In the light domain, only the most prosperous city, the light divine city, has the existence of the space-time beast. We need to go to the light domain, Tuo Xing suggested in a low voice. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Among them, only Tuo Xing had been to the light domain before. Therefore, Tuo Xing was the most familiar with the light domain among them. Under Tuo Xing's lead, the divine ship docked at the nearest city. Then, through the teleportation formation in the city, they were directly transmitted to the light divine city. Chapter 4108. This is the outer city of the light divine city. It is specially built for the living beings and practitioners of the light region to do business and live here. Tuo Xing explained to Zhuan. Through Tuo Xing's introduction, Zhuan knew that the main part of the light divine city was the inner city. The inner city was much bigger than the outer city. It was also very mysterious and was hidden in a secret space. Other than the light region, no one else knew where the inner city of the light divine city was. Both sides of the streets were filled with shops and stalls. There were all kinds of items on display, such as divine weapons, divine medicine, divine elixirs, and all kinds of good materials. Shan Lingyun, on the other hand, was very interested. She looked around and her big watery eyes were full of twinkling stars. Soon, she realized that she had lost her composure. She curled her lips and became serious again. She said to Tuo Xing, "Tuo Xing, bring us to the place where the space-time beast is kept." Tuo Xing nodded and led the group through a few streets. Their group attracted a lot of attention as they walked on the street. Many people turned to look at them. Tuo Xing stopped in front of a huge temple in the west of the city and said in a deep voice, "This is the space-time temple. It's where the space-time beasts are kept. Many people ride the space-time beasts from here." After some negotiation, the person in charge of the space-time temple came out and welcomed Zhuan and the group in. "Esteemed guests, may I know which domain you plan to visit this time?" The person in charge was a beautiful woman with a hot body. She was wearing a thin, tight cheongsam that showed off her figure. There was a hint of charm on her pretty face as she sat on the wooden chair and looked at Zhuan charmingly. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and scolded her in her heart. She said, "We are going to the magical region. What is the price?" The beautiful woman looked at the petite Shan Lingyun in astonishment. She didn't expect this little girl to speak first. Did that mean that this little lowly was the leader of this group of people? The beautiful woman quickly regained her composure. She smiled tenderly and said, "Recently, it's the peak season for space-time beast rides. The price is twice as high as usual. It's about 200,000 spar per person. I see that there are more than 300 of you here. I can give you a discount. Even if there are 300 of you, it will be 60 million crystal stones in total." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This beautiful woman was really asking for an exorbitant price. They knew from Tuo Xing that the normal price of a space-time beast was only 100,000 crystal stones. Now, she had actually doubled the price. "Manager, isn't your price a bit too high?" "It's actually doubled." Tuoshing frowned. The beautiful woman spread out her hands and said helplessly, "This is the market price. If you think it's too expensive, you can look elsewhere." Zhuowen frowned. He knew from Tuoshing that in the light region, only the Spacetime Temple had Spacetime Divine Beasts. If they were to search elsewhere, wouldn't they have to go to other mid-level domains to search? "Then this is the price," Zhuowen said indifferently. He understood that the current situation was different from the past. The light region was taking advantage of others' weakness, and it was monopolized. They had no choice but to accept this price. The beautiful woman smiled sweetly and said, "Little brother is really a straightforward person." Next, after Zhuowen paid the 60 million crystal stones, the beautiful woman informed them that the Spacetime Divine Beasts heading to the Magus God domain would set off in 3 days. She asked them to come back to the Spacetime Temple 3 days later. Zhuowen and the others temporarily stayed in the outer city of the Light Divine City. The expenses during this period of time are a bit terrifying. Zhuowen looked at the piles of crystal stones in the outside world that were being rapidly consumed and couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. Fortunately, most of the resources in Psycho Hongfei's universe world had been obtained by him, so his wealth was still relatively rich. Otherwise, he might have had to pay for the expenses in the light region. 3 days later, Zhuowen and the others arrived at the Spacetime Temple as promised. The beautiful woman who received them was still the same as 3 days ago. She smiled and led Zhuowen and the others into the Spacetime Temple. In the depths of the Spacetime Temple, there was an extremely large open space. In the open space, there were many divine pillars that were so thick that it would take several people to wrap their arms around them. The surface of each divine pillar was engraved with dense and strange patterns. At the same time, the top of the divine pillar was connected to a thick divine chain. On the surface of the divine chain, there were strong bolts of lightning surging, and the aura it exuded was vast and powerful. The gazes of Zhuowen and the others couldn't help but be attracted by the divine chains that were connected to the divine pillars. At the end of the divine chains was an incomparably huge beast that was tied up. This beast was oval in shape, and its body was covered with strange scales. There were also fins on the sides of its body. What was even more strange was that when the beast's fins swayed, the surrounding space was distorted and collapsed. Time seemed to have stopped. What powerful spacetime energy! Is this the spacetime beast? Zhuowen muttered softly as he looked at the beast that was tied up by the divine chains. His gaze became extremely solemn. One had to admit that the spacetime beast's control of spacetime energy was much stronger than that of human cultivators. It was no wonder that it could travel freely in the spacetime turbulence. Manager Lin. At the front of the open space, a man in a black robe came forward and bowed respectfully to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman nodded and introduced him to Zhuowen and the others with a smile. "Everyone, this is the beast tamer of this spacetime beast. You can call him Dark." The man in the black robe looked at Zhuowen and the others indifferently. He only nodded and didn't say anything. Shan Lingyun frowned slightly. This man in the black robe was too rude. He didn't even greet them. The beautiful woman smiled and said, "Dark's character is like this. He is a man of few words and doesn't like to talk much. Don't mind him too much." As she spoke, the beautiful woman looked at the man in the black robe and said, "Dark, can the spacetime beast depart?" "It can depart at any time. Let the guests follow me onto the spacetime beast." Dark nodded and then said to Zhuowen and the others, "Follow me." As he spoke, Dark kicked his right foot and flew straight up. He flew along the nearest divine chain and quickly charged towards the spacetime beast. Zhuowen and the others also flew out and followed closely behind. After Dark entered the divine chain, The powerful divine lightning that was released on the surface of the divine chain also disappeared. It didn't cause any harm to Zhuowen and the others. When they flew onto the spacetime beast, they realized that there were many pavilions and towers on the back of the spacetime beast. At a glance, it looked like a small city. Zhuowen and the others even saw that in some of the pavilions, there were many cultivators chatting and drinking merrily. There were also some who were calling their friends and some who stopped to look outside. These guests are also going to the magical realm, just like all of you, Dark said. Zhuowen and the others were enlightened. Obviously, they weren't the only group that was going to the magical realm. Chapter 4109. Disciple, why do you keep looking at that pavilion? Shan Lingyu noticed the strange expression on Zhuowen's face, and could not help but ask. Zhuowen shook his head and said, I must have seen wrongly. It's fine. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and did not pursue the matter further. Everyone, the spacetime divine beast is about to depart. Take your receipts and check in according to the rooms allocated on the receipt. Do not get the wrong room. Otherwise, we will not be responsible for any problems. Lady Dark said indifferently and headed straight for the spacetime behemoth's head. Zhuowen and the rest were stunned. Lady Dark's attitude was too bad. She did not even lead them to their rooms. Instead, she wanted them to search for their rooms. Zhuowen took out the receipt on him. On it was written, 3rd grade room 10. The receipt was given to them by the beautiful woman after Zhuowen had paid the crystal stones. Each of them had one receipt. The rooms on the spacetime behemoth were also divided into grades. They were A, B, C, and D, with A being the highest and D being the lowest. As the A rooms were too expensive and D rooms were too simple, Zhuowen bought a 3rd grade room. It was just right. Disciple, I am right next to you. Shan Lingyun came over and looked at Zhuowen's receipt. She smiled and immediately showed the receipt in her hand to Zhuowen. On the receipt in Shan Lingyun's hand, the words, 3rd grade room 9, were written. Zhuowen rubbed Shan Lingyun's head and led the rest to the 3rd grade room. As they had bought the tickets together, their rooms were basically next to each other. Zhuowen came to the door of 3rd grade room 10. He brushed the receipt on the magical array in front of the door, and the door opened automatically. Not long after Zhuowen entered the room, a figure appeared outside the door. It was pacing back and forth as if it was hesitating. Who is it? Zhuowen asked loudly. I am a messenger. Can you open the door? A young female voice came from outside the door. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, but he still walked forward and opened the door. Outside the door stood a young girl in a pink dress. She was looking around timidly, seeming rather nervous. After the door opened, the girl let out a low cry and involuntarily took a few steps back. Deliver a letter? It was only then that Zhuowen noticed that the girl was holding an unopened envelope. Is your name Zhuowen? The young lady in the silk dress asked. I am Zhuowen. How do you know my room number and name? And who asked you to deliver the letter to me? Zhuowen's eyes were like torches as he coldly looked at the young girl. Zhuowen did not recognize the girl in front of him, but she actually knew his name. This caused a chill to rise in his heart. If it weren't for the fact that the young lady's aura wasn't that strong, and that she was only in the yin-yang transformation, Zhuowen would have already made his move. The girl was frightened by Zhuowen's tone. She suddenly stuttered, and a trace of mist rose in her eyes. I am just a messenger. It was the messenger who told me your room number and name. Why are you so fierce? And I don't know who the messenger is, but he is a big shot. He is a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. He is not to be trifled with. The girl seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. She curled her lips and said with some righteous indignation. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He did not expect that the person who delivered the letter to him was at the great carefree realm. Taking the envelope, Zhuowen silently looked at the girl's back as she left. His face revealed a thoughtful expression. He opened the seal of the envelope. Suddenly, a divine thought floated out of the envelope and entered Zhuowen's mind. Come to the Agarwood Pavilion in the A-Zone. I will wait for you on the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. As the divine thought disappeared, the envelope in Zhuowen's hand burned by itself. What a familiar divine thought! Zhuowen muttered to himself, but a strange light burst out from his eyes. He did not hesitate for long before leaving the room and heading to the A-Zone. The Agarwood Pavilion was extremely famous in the A-Zone. Therefore, Zhuowen immediately found the address of the Agarwood Pavilion after asking around. May I ask if the young master is Zhuowen? As soon as Zhuowen arrived at the entrance of the Agarwood Pavilion, a charming and beautiful woman came out of the Agarwood Pavilion. She looked at Zhuowen softly and asked. Zhuowen did not answer the beautiful woman's question. Instead, his powerful divine thought swept into the Agarwood Pavilion like a storm. The Agarwood Pavilion was an extremely famous restaurant in the area. Not only was it famous for its wine and delicacies, but the geisha here were also multi-talented and beautiful. Generally, those who could afford to stay in the A-Zone rooms were either powerful or held high positions. Therefore, the Agarwood Pavilion was extremely popular. The moment Zhuowen's divine thought swept out, the beautiful woman who was greeting Zhuowen suddenly changed her expression. Young master, please don't do this. Quickly withdraw your divine thought, the beautiful woman said in a panic. As soon as the beautiful woman finished speaking, waves of powerful divine thought gathered in the Agarwood Pavilion like a storm and fell on Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. He found that most of the masters of the divine thought were ancient star transformation experts, and the number was quite shocking. What an arrogant boy! How dare you use your divine thought to explore the Agarwood Pavilion? Are you courting death? Humph! Where did this country bumpkin come from? Don't you know the rules of the Agarwood Pavilion? How dare you use your divine thought so casually? Are you courting death? Waves of unfriendly divine thought descended like a huge mountain, crushing Zhuowen's body. The beautiful woman's face turned pale with fright. She secretly thought that it was over. The VIPs of the Agarwood Pavilion were all rich and powerful. Zhuowen's unruly use of his divine thought to explore the entire Agarwood Pavilion would incur the wrath of everyone. Even she would not be able to suppress it. Everyone, please calm down. This young master is new here and does not know the rules, so, the beautiful woman quickly smiled apologetically and bowed to the Agarwood Pavilion. Her face was slightly pale. Humph! Even if he is new and does not know the rules, it is the same. We must teach this newbie a lesson. Otherwise, if anyone comes here and uses their divine thought, why would we come to the Agarwood Pavilion in the future? Are you looking for trouble? Yes. The rules cannot be broken. We can't let him off the hook just because he is new. Waves of divine thought gathered, and all of them were extremely dissatisfied. Some were even gloating. The beautiful woman wiped the cold sweat on her forehead and smiled bitterly. This was really difficult. After all, it was difficult to provoke the wrath of the crowd. Chapter 41:10. Humph! Suddenly, a cold snort came from the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. It was like a heavenly power that shrouded the entire Agarwood Pavilion. Because of this cold snort, the divine thoughts that were originally discussing quieted down. This aura, this pressure, was simply too strong. It made them feel as if the sky was falling down. It's the Lord on the top floor. Inside the Agarwood Pavilion, someone whispered to himself, trembling with fear. Before they entered the Agarwood Pavilion, they had been informed that the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion had been reserved by a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. Who would dare to offend such an expert? This person is a distinguished guest that I have invited. If you are dissatisfied or unhappy, feel free to tell me. I will give you an explanation. A calm voice came slowly from the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. Although the voice was calm, it was like a thunderclap, exploding in everyone's mind and deafening their ears. Everyone's heart trembled, and they all resentfully gave up and fell silent. The person on the top floor was a great figure of the great carefree realm. How would they have the guts to ask him for an explanation? Wasn't that courting death? So it's the Lord's friend. It's a misunderstanding. We were just joking. Don't take it to heart. Yes, everyone makes mistakes. This young master is still a newcomer, so it's understandable that he doesn't know the rules. They all withdrew their divine thoughts and explained to the Agarwood pavilion. They no longer dared to criticize Zhuowen. The beautiful woman breathed a sigh of relief. Her beautiful eyes looked curiously at Zhuowen. As the manager of the Agarwood pavilion, she knew very well how powerful and honorable the person on the top floor was. Moreover, he was extremely domineering in dealing with people. She did not expect that in order to help Zhuowen out, that person was willing to come in person. It could be seen that the young man in front of her held a high position in that person's heart. Zhuowen's eyes became extremely dignified. He raised his head and silently looked at the top floor of the Agarwood pavilion. There, by the bamboo window, there was a reflection of a deep figure. What a powerful divine sense! This person is probably even stronger than Saiku Hongfei and Zhu Yangqi. Zhuowen's gaze was solemn. Saiku Hongfei and the other two were all in the middle stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe, and this person gave him an even stronger feeling. Wouldn't that mean that he was at least an expert in the late stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe? Thinking of this, Zhuowen's heart sank. He did not know any experts with such cultivation. Zhuowen still couldn't tell whether this person was friend or foe. "Young master, that lord is waiting for you on the top floor. Come with me." The beautiful woman leisurely walked in front of Zhuowen. Her soft and delicate hands gently held onto Zhuowen's hand as she led him into the Agarwood pavilion. Zhuowen's brows furrowed slightly. He gently shook off the beautiful woman's hand and said indifferently, "I'll just follow behind you." The beautiful woman didn't feel awkward at all. She calmly led the way in front. The Agarwood pavilion had a total of 7 floors. From the bottom to the top, the decorations were getting more and more luxurious. Without a doubt, the higher the floor of the Agarwood pavilion, the more luxurious the decorations were. Of course, the higher the price. When they reached the top floor, the beautiful woman respectfully said outside the door, "Sir, I have invited young Master Zhuowen here." Inside the room, there was no response for a long time. The beautiful woman had said it for the second time. Finally, a low and hoarse voice was heard. "I understand. You can leave." The beautiful woman nodded. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She glanced at Zhuowen and hurriedly left. "Brother Zhuo, long time no see. Your cultivation progress is actually so fast. It's beyond my expectations." After the beautiful woman left, the voice in the room rang out again. However, this time, the voice was no longer hoarse and low. Instead, it was filled with a young and loud voice. Hearing this voice, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Could it be Brother Duan? Zhuowen hesitated slightly and asked tentatively. "Ha! Brother Zhuo, you have a good memory. You can still remember my voice. Come in." Hearty laughter came from inside the room. Then, the originally closed door was immediately opened. Through the door, it could be seen that the area of this box was very large. There were 5 rooms with gorgeous decorations. In front of the hall, a figure was standing and looking at Zhuowen with a smile. It was a handsome young man. His white robe was slightly fluttering, and he looked natural and unrestrained. This person was Duan Jipeng, whom Zhuowen had saved outside the boundary of the starry sky. "It's really you, Brother Duan. I haven't seen you for a long time. You have already stepped into the great freedom realm." Zhuowen laughed, stepped into the hall, and gave Duan Jipeng a big bear hug. Duan Jipeng generously hugged Zhuowen back. The corners of his eyes were full of smiles. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land naturally added a sense of closeness. Moreover, Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng had gone through life and death together. Although they didn't get along for long, their friendship was not shallow. "Take a seat." Duan Jipeng waved his sleeve and closed the door again. Then, he led Zhuowen to a seat. He flipped his right hand, and a white jade wine pot and 2 white jade wine cups appeared on the table. He filled the 2 white jade wine cups to the brim, and then said with a smile, "Compared to Brother Zhua, what is this little bit of achievement of mine?" Zhuowen didn't comment. He remembered that when he first met Duan Jipeng was only at the God Realm. At that time, he was being chased by Venerable Hong Rui of the Nuwa clan. Both of them were heavily injured and almost died. At the critical moment, he schemed to let Venerable Hong Rui enter the Starry Sky. With the help of the Starry Sky's rules, he killed the heavily injured Venerable Hong Rui and saved Duan Jipeng's life. Since Duan Jipeng was able to reach the Great Carefree Realm from the God Realm on the day they met again, he must have had a lot of opportunities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to advance so quickly. "Brother Duan, you must be joking. Speaking of which, the one who should really thank you is me. If it weren't for you, the Starry Sky would have been destroyed by the Nuwa clan." Zhuowen smiled. Back then, Duan Jipeng used his astral weapon, the Dark Chakra Eye, to help him conceal Venerable Hong Rui's aura. Thus, the Nuwa clan's great senior couldn't find the place where Venerable Hong Rui died. This gave the Starry Sky a chance to survive. Therefore, he was sincerely grateful for what Duan Jipeng had done for him and the Starry Sky. "Haha, that's what I should do. Speaking of which, Brother Zhua, with your speed of improvement, you won't need 10,000 years. I'm afraid you'll be able to reach the Great Carefree Realm within 1,000 years. Then, you'll be more than enough to protect the Starry Sky. You might even be able to build a base in the 100 domains outside the Starry Sky. That's a big force." Chapter 41:11. "Brother Duan, you should have recognized me when I first entered the Spacetime Beast, right?" Zhuowen said to Duan Jipeng with a smile as he toyed with the white jade cup in his hand. Earlier, when he first entered the Spacetime Beast, he saw a familiar figure. It should be Duan Jipeng. However, Zhuowen found it strange that Duan Jipeng didn't come out to meet him when he recognized him. Instead, he sent someone to secretly send him a letter to meet him at the Agarwood Pavilion. Duan Jipeng nodded and said, "Brother Zhua, your divine senses are really sharp. You can actually sense my aura. At that time, I did see you, but I couldn't openly acknowledge you." At this point, Duan Jipeng's expression became very serious. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Is it because of the Nuwa clan?" Duan Jipeng nodded and said, "The Dark Chakra Eye is an extremely powerful set of complete astral weapons of the Nuwa clan. Its power is much stronger than many astral weapon fragments. The Nuwa clan will never give up on such an item. As a result, the Nuwa clan has been hunting me down since the beginning, and they've been hunting me down. This is also why I was so cautious when I saw you." Zhuowen nodded. He had heard about the enmity between Duan Jipeng and the Nuwa clan from Duan Jipeng. The daughter of the Grand Master, Concubine Yun, fell in love with Duan Jipeng. She wanted to recruit Duan Jipeng but rejected the marriage. The main reason was that Concubine Yun had a complete astral weapon like the Dark Chakra Eye in her body. In the future, the Grand Master would completely control the Dark Chakra Eye by sacrificing it to Concubine Yun. Unfortunately, in order to save Duan Jipeng, Concubine Yun sacrificed herself and gave the Dark Chakra Eye to Duan Jipeng. This helped Duan Jipeng escape the pursuit of the Nuwa clan. The Nuwa clan would never give up on the Dark Chakra Eye. Therefore, they would continue to hunt down Duan Jipeng until they captured him. Duan Jipeng definitely wouldn't let the Nuwa clan off either. He had to avenge his wife's death. Under the intense pursuit of the Nuwa clan, Duan Jipeng naturally didn't dare to openly acknowledge Zhuowen. Otherwise, not only would his tracks be exposed, he would even implicate Zhuowen. Brother Duan, just how powerful is the Nuwa clan? Can you tell me a thing or two? Zhuowen's expression became rather solemn. Even with Duan Jipeng's current level of cultivation, he was still so cautious. The strength of the Nuwa clan was probably beyond his expectations. Duan Jipeng was silent for a moment before he sighed and said, Brother Zhuo, I'm sure you're aware of the hierarchy of the 100 outer domains. Zhuowen nodded and said, I've heard that the 100 outer domains are divided into 5 levels, namely the low level, the medium level, the high level, the super level, and the invincible level. What level is the Nuwa domain? The Nuwa domain is a high-level domain, and the Grand Master of the Nuwa clan is the guardian of the Nuwa domain. His cultivation has already reached the reverse ancient starlight realm. Duan Jipeng smiled bitterly. What? Reverse ancient starlight realm? Zhuowen gasped. The reverse ancient starlight realm was the 3rd level of the great carefree realm. It was far more powerful than the universal calamity realm. He had never imagined that the Grand Master of the Nuwa clan would be so powerful. No wonder Duan Jipeng was still so cautious after reaching the great carefree realm. Through Duan Jipeng's narration, Zhuowen gradually gained a general understanding of the distribution of the 100 outer domains. The levels of a domain were divided according to the cultivation of the strongest expert in each domain. For example, there were only 5 invincible domains in the 100 outer domains. They were the most powerful domains in the 100 outer domains, and they all had the strongest experts in the all-in-one domain. It was said that the Abyss domain, which was publicly recognized as the number 1 domain, was suspected to have an expert at the peak of all-in-one domain, who was already standing at the peak of the 100 outer domains. And such an expert was said to have a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. The immemorial star system was high and mighty, ruling the entire vast and boundless chaotic starry sky. Many creatures, in their whole lives, were just to be able to step into the mysterious star system. Because, in the immemorial star system, there was a supreme power and the secret of immortality. However, the immemorial star system was too far away for most creatures. It was an existence that they could only look at but not reach. And the strongest expert in the Abyss domain had a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. This was already extremely amazing. Brother Duan, what is your realm? Zhuowen glanced at Duan Jipeng and asked curiously. My current cultivation is only at the peak of the universal calamity realm. I haven't even reached the cosmic Dharma idol. There is still a huge gap between me and the more powerful reverse ancient starlight. But I am confident that as long as I can successfully break through and eventually condense the cosmic Dharma idol, and then rely on the power of the star weapon Dark Chakra, I will have the power to protect myself in the face of the Nuwa clan's pursuit. At that time, I won't have to be so scared. Hiding from place to place. Duan Jipeng revealed a wry smile. Obviously, he also felt tired of these days of hiding. Zhuowen nodded. Although he was not in the Great Carefree Realm, he also knew that in the Great Carefree Realm, the difficulty of cultivation was definitely much higher than in the Heaven-Breaking Realm. With Duan Jipeng's talent, if he cultivated normally, it would probably take an immeasurable amount of time to finally break through the cosmic Dharma idol. And if Duan Jipeng wanted to break through in a short time, he could only obtain a great opportunity. Brother Duan, I think you should have other things besides catching up with me, Zhuowen said slowly, his deep eyes silently looking at Duan Jipeng. Duan Jipeng smiled embarrassedly and said, Brother Zhuo, your observation skills are indeed very sharp. You're right, I called you here not only to catch up with you, but also to tell you something. To be more precise, I want to give you a good fortune. Creation? Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with surprise. Duan Jipeng suddenly leaned close and whispered, Brother Zhuo, have you heard of the extraterritorial battlefield? Zhuo Wen shook his head and said, This is the first time I've heard of it. What is this so-called extraterritorial battlefield? Duan Jipeng revealed an as-expected expression and said in a low voice, The extraterritorial battlefield is the battlefield opened up outside the borders of the 100 outer realms. And in this battlefield, there are numerous powerful extraterritorial creatures. Once you apply for the identity of a warrior in the extraterritorial battlefield, then you can fight with the numerous extraterritorial creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield. After Duan Jipeng's narration, Zhuo Wen finally had a preliminary understanding of this so-called extraterritorial battlefield. Chapter 41:12. There were all kinds of creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield. There were terrifying beasts that were not human, human cultivators from other mysterious spaces, and even some strange races. And these extraterrestrial beings only had one purpose in coming to the extraterritorial battlefield, and that was to kill. They had to constantly kill in order to obtain sufficient contribution points. There were many uses for contribution points. It could directly increase one's cultivation level, and it could also be exchanged for many precious divine medicines and divine pills that could not be exchanged in the outside world. It could even be exchanged for powerful astral weapons. Moreover, the chaotic energy in the extraterritorial battlefield is much denser than most realms, and it contains many ownerless chaos mineral veins. As long as you're lucky enough to find a chaos mineral vein, you'll be rich. In addition to chaos mineral veins, there are many extremely rare treasures in the extraterritorial battlefield. As long as you're strong enough and cautious enough in the extraterritorial battlefield, you'll be able to rapidly increase your cultivation level in a short period of time. The reason why my cultivation level was able to increase from the God realm change to the universe tribulation stage in such a short period of time is mainly because I once roamed the extraterritorial battlefield and obtained many opportunities. That's how I was able to achieve this. Duan Jipeng's gaze became rather fervent. He couldn't help but be very excited when talking about the extraterritorial battlefield. Hearing this, Zhuo Wen couldn't help but be moved. Although he didn't have much of an understanding of the extraterritorial battlefield, for Duan Jipeng to achieve such achievements, it was obvious that the extraterritorial battlefield was indeed extraordinary. Brother Duan, as long as you apply, you'll have the qualifications to enter the extraterritorial battlefield? Zhuo Wen asked. Duan Jipeng shook his head and said, Although the extraterritorial battlefield is extremely cruel, there are many opportunities. It's a treasure land. The main reason is that it's controlled by the 5 invincible realms and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy. If you can't obtain the corresponding quota from these 6 forces, you won't be able to enter the extraterritorial battlefield at all. My luck is pretty good. Back then, I accidentally obtained a quota and entered the extraterritorial battlefield with the cultivation of the Fiend God change. Relying on the power of the Dark Chakra I went through a lot of hardships and finally achieved my current achievements. Brother Zhuo, you haven't entered the extraterritorial battlefield before, but your cultivation level has increased so quickly. This shows that your talent is extremely amazing. If you're able to enter the Outerium battlefield to temper yourself, then your cultivation will progress even faster. Zhuo Wen nodded and silently looked at Duan Jipeng. Since the extraterritorial battlefield required a quota to enter, Zhuo Wen clearly did not have the qualifications in his current state. Brother Duan, could the good fortune you mentioned be this extraterritorial battlefield? But I don't have a place to enter. Zhuo Wen smiled faintly. No. The fortune I'm talking about is the powerful succession I found in the extraterritorial battlefield. If he could enter that inheritance, he would receive a great fortune. As for your quota, I've already thought of it for you, Duan Jiping said mysteriously. He smiled but kept her in suspense. Zhuowen was startled and nodded. He did not ask about the quota. Since Duan Jiping had helped him settle the matter of the quota, it was obvious that he was not joking. Brother Duan, since you're riding the space-time beast this time, it's obvious that you're planning to head to the magical realm. The magical realm is not very far from the Nuwa realm, so your trip. Zhuowen hesitated for a moment and asked in a low voice. When the Nuwa realm was mentioned, Duan Jiping's eyes suddenly became sharp. I've heard rumors that the tomb of an expert suspected to be a cosmic Dharma idol has appeared in the magical realm, and someone has even found a Dharma idol divine fruit there. The Dharma idol divine fruit is the best supplementary item to condense a cosmic Dharma idol. If I can get the Dharma idol divine fruit, the time it takes to condense a cosmic Dharma idol will be greatly reduced, and my strength will rise to a new level. When the Dharma idol divine fruit was mentioned, Duan Jiping's eyes surged with passion. Obviously, he yearned for the Dharma idol divine fruit. Zhuowen secretly clicked his tongue. He didn't expect that the tomb of such an expert would appear in the Witch God realm. No wonder when he entered the space-time beast, he found that there were so many experts heading to the Witch God realm. It seemed that they were all here for the cosmic Dharma expert. They were all here for the tomb. Brother Zhua, this tomb will attract many experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to fight for it. I've even heard that many geniuses on the outer realm heavenly list are also interested and will gather in the magical realm. And the geniuses who can be on the outer realm heavenly list basically have a Dharma idol token on them. They have a Dharma idol token for the extraterritorial battlefield. When we enter the tomb, if we encounter such geniuses, we can kill one or two of them and take the Dharma idol token for ourselves. Duan Jiping smiled faintly. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. He had to admit that Duan Jiping was really straightforward. Snatching the Dharma idol token was indeed a clean and efficient way. Compared to the Dharma idol token, Zhuowen was more interested in the tomb. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma idol expert was definitely not ordinary. This was a great opportunity for him. Brother Duan, the news you've brought is too timely for me. I really can't thank you enough. Zhuowen cupped his hands and thanked him. Duan Jiping waved his hand and said, Brother Zhua, you're too polite. There's no need to be polite between you and me. This time, you'll enter the tomb with me. This way, you'll be safer. Zhuowen originally wanted to refuse, but Duan Jiping was really too enthusiastic and insisted on going together. Zhuowen had no choice but to agree. After the two talked for a while, they became much closer to each other. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhuowen said goodbye and left the Agarwood Pavilion. Before leaving, many practitioners in the Agarwood Pavilion looked at Zhuowen with a trace of awe and fear in their eyes. After all, the top expert of the great carefree realm had personally stood up for him. Obviously, this person's background was not small. How could they dare to look down on him? Zhuowen ignored these strange looks and went straight back to his room. Zhuowen had also roughly told Duan Jiping about Huxley. Duan Jiping promised Zhuowen that after entering the sorcerer realm, he would first follow him to the sorcerer sacred city where the sorcerer clan was located. After settling down Huxley's clansmen, the two of them would go to the tomb together. Fortunately, the tomb was still in a closed state. It was said that there was still some time before it appeared, so Duan Jiping was not in a hurry. In addition, Duan Jiping had also said that this time, he had also gathered several experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to enter the tomb together. This way, the chances of obtaining the divine fruit of Dharma origin would be greatly increased. In order to prepare for the upcoming battle of the tomb, Zhuowen had to improve his strength as much as possible during this period of time. His cultivation had just improved not long ago, so it was obviously not possible to improve it again. Therefore, he spent the rest of the time on the art of array Tao. Chapter 41:13. Time gradually passed. Finally, after 2 months, Zhuowen, who had been in seclusion in his room to comprehend the heaven-mending catalogue, slowly opened his eyes. In his eyes there was a blazing light, as if he could see through the essence of anything. The so-called 10,000 laws of nature means that the art of array formation exists in the heart. With a thought, I can create an array. Everything is natural, everything is free. Zhuowen muttered to himself, then let out a carefree laugh. Then, with a thought, he entered the macro world. He came to a place with lofty mountains and steep ridges. With a wave of his sleeve, an extremely powerful array phantom appeared in the void. The array phantom was formed by endless array patterns. It looked illusory, but the aura it exuded was extremely powerful. Zhuowen clenched his right hand in the air, and the originally illusory great array suddenly turned corporeal. The aura of the array skyrocketed several times, like the might of heaven, enveloping the entire macro world. Zhuowen waved his sleeve once again, and the seemingly solid great array collapsed. Countless array patterns disappeared into thin air, while a trace of a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He finally took the last half-step smoothly, and his array formation reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade. Array formation and alchemy Tao were both broad and profound. Above the heaven-breaching grade was the eternal grade. There were 5 heavens in the eternal grade. The first heavens was the lowest, and the 5th heavens was the highest. The power of the array that could be arranged was enough to trap an expert of the great carefree realm. Compared to array formation, my progress in alchemy Tao is a bit slow, Zhuowen muttered to himself, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His array formation level had reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade, but his alchemy Tao level was still hovering around the 8th level of the heaven-breaching grade. Of course, this was also related to his opportunity. After all, he had obtained a powerful array formation book, the heaven-mending catalogue, which gave him a clear direction in array formation. Alchemy, on the other hand, was not so lucky. If he could also obtain this kind of opportunity, he believed that his achievements in alchemy would not be much weaker than his attainments in array formations. After Zhuowen removed the array, Xiao Hei's divine sense suddenly rang out in his mind. Then, a terrifying sword light shot toward him from afar. The black sword light was like a bolt of black lightning. It flickered in the distance and appeared not far from Zhuowen. Roar! The instant the sword appeared in front of Zhuowen, an extremely loud and clear dragon roar was emitted from the sword. It whizzed out and resounded through the clouds. At the same time, Zhuowen also saw the true appearance of the sword. The sword was 1.4 meters long. It was completely black and crystal clear, as if it was forged from a black crystal diamond. On the surface of the sword, there was a pitch-black dragon-shaped pattern that extended from the end of the hilt all the way to the tip of the sword. It was natural and lifelike. "Kid, you've caused such a big commotion as soon as you entered the outside world." Xiao Hei flew out of the divine sword and sat on the hilt. He crossed his legs and curled his lip. Zhuowen smiled slightly and said, "I've just mastered array formations, so I'm itching to try it in the outside world. Speaking of which, Xiao Hei, are you familiar with this sword now?" Xiao Hei scratched his head and said with a smile, "I'm just getting familiar with it. Moreover, this extreme nether sacred sword is worthy of being a rank 7 astral weapon. The energy it gives me is really too pure. During this time, I've made another breakthrough and successfully advanced to the ancient star transformation." Zhuowen's eyes revealed a look of surprise. It seemed that this extreme nether sacred sword had many benefits for Xiao Hei. It hadn't been long, and Xiao Hei had actually broken through a major realm. At this speed, wouldn't Xiao Hei step into the great carefree realm before him? However, the stronger Xiao Hei's strength was, the happier Zhuowen was. After all, the stronger his strength, the more proficient his control of the extreme nether sacred sword would be, and the greater the help to him. Kid. A strange stone seemed to have appeared in the outside world. That stone seems to have a life of its own, Xiao Hei suddenly said. Amen? Strange stone, are you talking about the primordial stone? Zhuowen said rather jokingly. Xiao Hei said solemnly, I'm serious. A stone really appeared. An extremely powerful heartbeat is even coming from inside that stone. Seeing Xiao Hei so solemn, Zhuowen also put away his joking expression. He said curiously, Bring me over to take a look. Following that, Xiao Hei brought Zhuowen through the vast and boundless grasslands, mighty and magnificent mountains, and the ever-changing climate, arriving at the easternmost region of the outside world. In the east there was a boundless sea. On the surface of the sea, there stood an irregular stone pillar. This stone pillar was derived from the depths of the sea. It was slanted on the surface of the sea, looking very strange. That strange stone is on top of that stone pillar. Xiao Hei stood on the extreme nether sacred sword, one of his little claws pointing forward. Zhuowen looked in the direction Xiao Hei pointed. Indeed, he saw that on top of that stone pillar, there was an irregular stone lying quietly. This stone was about the size of an ordinary person's head. Its surface was bumpy, and there was nothing special about it. Zhuowen looked at Xiao Hei doubtfully, his eyes revealing an inquiring look. Watch carefully. The best part is yet to come. Xiao Hei's eyes were solemn. He suddenly waved his little claws, and the white clouds above the sea dispersed. A ray of golden light of the rising sun sprinkled down, enveloping the stone pillar. When Zhuowen looked at the stone again, he was surprised to find that the surface of the stone was shining with a blazing golden light. The stone was also moving up and down like a beating heart. Let's go take a look. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward and landed on the stone pillar. When he walked in to take a look, he found that the surface of the stone was engraved with dense and strange characters. He had never seen these characters before. It should be a brand new language. Thump, thump. At the same time, there was a rhythmic pulse coming from this strange stone. It was as if there was a beating heart hidden in this stone. Zhuowen frowned slightly. His divine sense landed on the stone. He found that his divine sense could not detect the internal structure of this stone. It was as if this was really an ordinary stone. This is too strange. Zhuowen pondered for a moment. His right hand slowly landed on the stone. Then, he felt a sense of intimacy from his bloodline. This feeling was similar to when Zhuowen held Zhuojun, and for the first time when he was just born. It was an innate sense of intimacy from his bloodline. Zhuowen shook his head. There was a strange look in his eyes. Zhuojun was his son. It was normal for him to feel this way. Chapter 41:14. Crack. Countless cracks appeared on the surface of the stone. These cracks quickly spread until the entire stone broke apart. From the cracked stone, a clear and melodious cry of a baby could be heard. Eh? It's a baby? Zhuowen was completely dumbfounded. He looked at the baby lying in the debris and was completely dumbfounded. A baby jumped out of the stone. Wasn't this too against common sense? Holy shit! What's going on? Brat, when did you not even let go of a stone? Xiao Hei, who was originally sitting on the sword hilt, was dumbfounded and almost fell to the ground. Blue veins appeared on Zhuowen's forehead. He suddenly sent Xiao Hei flying with a palm strike. This guy's mouth was too cheap. Hee. Brat, I was just joking. Don't take it to heart. Xiao Hei flew back. His face was full of embarrassment, but he didn't dare to speak carelessly. Zhuowen held the baby in his arms. The baby, who was originally crying, suddenly stopped crying and even giggled. Brat, look, he's laughing. You must be his father without a doubt. Xiao He yelled. Zhuowen was expressionless. He once again punched Xiao He. This time, Xiao He was completely obedient and didn't dare to tease Zhuowen anymore. Suddenly, the strings of strange characters on the surface of the debris on the stone pillar seemed to be alive. They actually broke away from the stone pillar, rushed into the sky, and landed on the baby's body. The originally white and flawless baby, who looked like a beautiful jade sculpture, was now covered with dense, strange characters. In an instant, the baby's aura also rose rapidly. In just 10 breaths' time, the baby actually jumped from an ordinary person with no cultivation level to the virtual sky world. Moreover, the baby's cultivation level was still rising. First step in the virtual sky world, second step in the virtual sky world, 8th step in the virtual sky world, 9th step in the virtual sky world. However, after his aura reached the 9th step in the virtual sky world, although the rising of his aura slowed down, it didn't stop. His aura was still growing stronger. In the end, the baby crossed the two extremes of life and death and successfully confirmed his Tao. As soon as he was born, he inexplicably succeeded in confirming his Tao. Moreover, he's a Heaven's Mandate Lord at the second step of Tao validation. Xiao He's jaw almost dropped. He looked at the baby in Zhuowen's arms as if he was looking at a monster. This was the first time he had seen a newborn baby with a Tao-confirming cultivation base. This was too heaven-defying. Zhuowen was completely stunned. He thought that his son was already heaven-defying enough. He was born at the peak of the true God realm and reached the void sky 8 steps at the age of 20. But compared to the baby in front of him, his son was far inferior. This should be a human born from the great world, but he's too heaven-defying. Zhuowen looked at the giggling baby in his hand with mixed feelings. Doesn't that mean that this little baby is the first human in your great world? This was the heavens as the father and the earth as the mother, a true son of heaven and earth. I'm afraid he's going to be an amazing guy in the future. Xiao He rubbed his hands and looked at the baby in Zhuowen's hands with a kind gaze. He had been in the great world for so many years and had always been with the blood immortal sword and the sacrificial death sword. He had long been tired of it. Now, the great world had finally given birth to its first human. He would not be so bored in the future. Zhuowen suddenly said, "This child's power seems to be completely different from ours. His body is extremely strong, but there's not a trace of divine power in it." Xiao He came over and looked carefully. His eyes also became serious. Zhuowen was right. There was no divine power in the child's body. The powerful aura was all emitted by that small body. Xiao He said seriously, "The strength of his body seems to come from these strange characters on his body." Could it be? Zhuowen and Xiao He raised their heads at the same time and looked at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. "Boy, your great world is amazing. This newly born infant's cultivation path might be a brand new system. A cultivation system that may not exist in the 100 outer regions or even in the chaotic starry sky. It's a system that can turn the world upside down. It's a revolution of the earth," Xiao He said excitedly. Zhuowen's eyes were full of surprise. If their guess was right, then Zhuowen's great world was really amazing. It was a brand new world that did not rely on the chaotic starry sky at all. It had its own rules, laws, and energy. It also had a brand new system that was derived by itself. The baby in front of them was the ancestor of this cultivation system. He would definitely be an extraordinary person in the future. "Xiao He, I'll leave this child to you. Remember to take care of him for me. If there's any problem, you must inform me immediately." Zhuowen handed the baby to Xiao He. The latter's eyes lit up and he transformed into a handsome young man in a black robe. He carefully took the baby. What embarrassed Xiao He was that the baby immediately cried and threw a tantrum as soon as he took it. Xiao Hei's face was covered in dirt. It took a lot of effort for him to calm the baby down. This child can't be nameless. How about I give him a name? Xiao Hei said excitedly. It was the first time that Zhuowen had seen Xiao Hei so excited. He did not refuse the latter's suggestion. In the end, after some consideration, Xiao Hei finally decided on the baby's name. He even handed over the blood celestial sword and the sacrificial sword's device spirit for discussion. The baby was born from the rock, and was born in the light of the rising sun through the cracks in the cloud. Therefore, Xiao Hei named the baby Shirpatian. Although there were many mysteries surrounding Shirpatian, Zhuowen also knew that if he wanted to understand Shirpotian's cultivation system and the meaning of the strange characters engraved on his body, he would have to wait until Shirpatian was a little older and could speak. However, Zhuowen had a strong premonition that the birth of this child would have a great impact on the chaotic starry sky under the rule of the ancient star system in the future. Although he did not know how great the impact would be in the future, he was sure that it would not be a small one. Another few days passed. Zhuowen, who had been cultivating in his room, felt a violent tremor coming from his surroundings. His divine thought swept out and found that the huge spacetime beast had left the spacetime turbulence and appeared on a vast plain. At the end of the plain there were mountains and rivers. Dear guests, the destination of this trip, the magical realm, is about to arrive. Dear guests, please be prepared in advance. A sweet female voice rang out from every room on the spacetime beast. Chapter 41:15. Esteemed guests, we are landing at the biggest city in the Sorcerer God world, Sorcerer God City. This city is the outer city of the Sorcerer God Sacred City. It is a huge city that is specially used for foreign cultivators to trade and travel. The sweet female voice sounded again on the deck. Disciple, you are already out. No wonder you did not respond when I knocked on your door. Zhuowen turned around and saw Shan Lingyun walking over with Sa Mei and Tuoxing. Behind them was a group of Huxley tribesmen. Zhuowen smiled and looked at the huge city in the distance. He said, "We are almost at Sorcerer God City. Master, you should be able to contact your aunt in Sorcerer God City." Shan Lingyun walked to Zhuowen's side and looked at the city in the distance. She nodded and said, "There is a special way to contact my tribe on the letter that my father left behind. As long as we are not too far away, I will be able to use the communication method on the letter. I will be able to contact my aunt. But I have not met this aunt before. I am not sure if she will still recognize me as her niece." Shan Lingyun seemed a little unhappy, and a trace of worry appeared in her eyes. Zhuowen rubbed Shan Lingyun's head and said, "Master, don't worry. Since the tribe leader has entrusted you and the rest of the tribesmen to your aunt, I am sure she will not reject you, because she is also from the Huxley tribe." Hearing this, Shan Lingyun's eyes lit up again, and she nodded her head heavily. Zhuowen chatted with Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and the rest as they waited for the spacetime beast to land. At the same time, Zhuowen noticed that there was always a gaze on the deck that was faintly discernible in his direction. He looked up and realized that the owner of the gaze was a man in a black robe. Even his face could not be seen clearly. He seemed to have noticed Zhuowen's gaze. He nodded slightly and did not greet him. Zhuowen nodded to him as well. The black-robed man was naturally Duan Jipeng. However, Duan Jipeng was currently wanted by the Nuwa clan, so he wouldn't show himself in public. About 2 hours later, the spacetime beast finally landed in a huge square in the Sorcerer God City. There was no doubt that the background of the spacetime temple in the Radiant Domain was not weak. Therefore, when they entered the Sorcerer Domain and the Sorcerer God City, they were not stopped for questioning. "Dear guests, we have arrived at the Witch God City. Please disembark in an orderly manner. We welcome you to come again in the future." As the sweet female voice sounded again, the people on the deck rushed down and left the spacetime beast. After Zhuowen and his group came down, they found a good inn nearby and stayed for the time being. After Shan Lingyun returned to the inn, she took out Lu Renjue's letter and began to contact her aunt. Shan Lingyun successfully got in touch with her aunt. The latter expressed that she welcomed them very much and would come to greet them in 3 days. At the same time, Zhuowen also found that under the prosperous surface of the Sorcerer God City, there was an undercurrent surging. He could feel that many extremely obscure auras were located in the Sorcerer God City. Brother Zhuo, it seems that this tomb of a cosmic Dharma plane expert is very attractive. There are at least 2 great carefree realm experts, and there are more than 10 geniuses on the outer realm celestial list. Among them, there is an expert who is ranked in the top 20. Not long after Zhuowen settled down in the inn, he received a message from Duan Jiping. Zhuowen took a deep breath. It seemed that the battle for the tomb this time would be a fierce battle. It would not be simple. 3 days later, outside the inn where Zhuowen was staying, an armored cultivator army with a strong aura came. This cultivator army had been through hundreds of battles. They were murderous and their aura was much stronger than that of an ordinary cultivator army. It's the Sorcerer God army of the Sorcerer God clan. This is the most elite cultivator army of the Sorcerer God clan. They usually guard the surroundings of the Sorcerer God sacred city. Why are they here? Look, that's Lu Yingying. She is the cultivation partner of the Sorcerer God clan leader. She has a high position and authority. Why is this lady here in the Sorcerer God city? The sudden appearance of this cultivator army naturally attracted the attention of the people around the streets of the Sorcerer God city. Everyone was discussing and whispering, especially when they saw the beautiful woman in a tight outfit in front of the cultivator army. Their eyes were filled with awe. I didn't know you were here. Please forgive me for not welcoming you." The owner of the inn scrambled out and came to Lu Yingying. He was so scared that his face was pale. He was only running a small business. He did not know what he had done wrong to provoke Lu Yingying to send the Sorcerer God army to his inn. Lu Yingying had snow-white skin, an oval face, and a pair of long and narrow phoenix eyes that were filled with unconcealable charm. If a man looked into her eyes, it would be easy for him to fall head over heels in love. At this moment, Lu Yingying's expression was indifferent as she said, 3 days ago, was there a group of people who stayed in your inn? The leader was called Shan Lingyun? The owner of the inn was shocked. He could only bite the bullet and say, there was indeed such a group of people. May I know why you are looking for them? After receiving an affirmative answer from the owner of the inn, Lu Yingying's expression eased up, and a faint smile appeared on her face. They are very important to me. Ask them to come out now. Tell them that Lu Yingying wants to see them. Lu Yingying said. The owner of the inn naturally did not dare to delay. He responded and hurriedly entered the inn. After a while, the owner of the inn led a group of people out. The leader of this group of people was a young man with a delicate and pretty face. On the young man's shoulder was a little loli with a delicate face. Lu Yingying's long and narrow eyes casually glanced at Zhuowen. However, her attention was on the little girl on Zhuowen's back. Her eyes revealed a trace of gentleness. Lingyun, do you still remember me? Lu Yingying smiled at Shan Lingyun. Shan Lingyun naturally saw Lu Yingying. Her big eyes looked at Lu Yingying timidly. Then, she lowered her head and thought for a while before saying, Is it Aunt Yingying? The smile on Lu Yingying's face became wider. She walked forward and took Shan Lingyun from Zhuowen's hands. Then, she carried her up. Our Lingyun is so smart. She only saw Aunt a few times when she was young. After so many years, she still remembers Aunt. Lu Yingying said with a smile. Chapter 41:16. You must be the disciples of King Valurium and King Imperial Dragon, right? Are you all that's left of our people? Lu Yingying smiled warmly at Sa Mei and Tuo Xing. Sa Mei and Tuo Xing looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They nodded with difficulty. Jinshui clan, God's Eye, and Purple Mirage. How dare they work together to destroy Huxley? How despicable! Lu Yingying's eyes were filled with coldness. As she spoke, Lu Yingying's gaze landed on Zhuowen. Ling Yun, who is he? Lu Yingying asked curiously. To her, Zhuowen was a stranger. However, he was walking in front of Sa Mei and Tuo Xing. Senior Lu, I am Zhuowen. I am Ling Yun's disciple. Zhuowen said with a smile. So you are Ling Yun's disciple. Lu Yingying nodded. She did not pay much attention to Zhuowen. Auntie. Disciple is the savior of our Hushu clan. When the three big clans invaded Huxley, he single-handedly killed the three clan leaders and all their elite martial artists. He even led us to escape from Saiku Hongfei, chased after them. In the end, he even defeated Saiku Hongfei. Shan Lingyun said with a smile. What? He had single-handedly killed the patriarchs of the three great clans and defeated Saiku Hongfei? This. Lu Yingying's expression finally changed. She looked at the young man in front of her carefully. The young man's aura was indeed powerful. However, he was only at the Middle Ancient Star Transformation realm. He could not even compare to the three clan leaders, let alone Saiku Hongfei. How could he have done such a thing? Ling Yun, are you kidding? He really killed the three clan leaders and Saiku Hongfei? Lu Yingying asked with a frown. Yes. If you don't believe me, you can ask Sa Mei and Tuo Xing. They saw it with their own eyes in Hushu City. Shan Lingyun said innocently. You are Zhuowen, right? Although I don't know how you did it, since you successfully brought my people out, I do have to thank you. This is a heaven-breaking level 9 godly medicine. Consider it my gift to you on behalf of Huxley. Lu Yingying arrived before Zhuowen. With a flip of her lily-white hand, an exquisite brocade box appeared in her palm, and she passed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was startled. He looked at the cold-faced beautiful woman in front of him and felt a little helpless. It seemed that Lu Yingying had misunderstood him. Senior Lu, there is no need for any gift. Ling Yun is my master. Master's kindness is as great as a mountain, I naturally won't save him. Zhuowen shook his head and refused Lu Yingying's gift of thanks. Lu Yingying glanced at Zhuowen in surprise, but she didn't refuse. She put away the brocade box and continued, In that case, I thank you on behalf of Huxley for your help. Although you are Ling Yun's disciple, you are not Huxley's. Therefore, if I bring you into the Sorcerer God Holy City without permission, I am afraid that it will be inappropriate. Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and the others' expressions changed slightly. They immediately understood what Lu Yingying meant. Zhuowen looked deeply at Lu Yingying and smiled. Senior Lu, don't worry. I will not be so thick-skinned as to follow you into the Sorcerer God Holy City. However, Ling Yun is my master. I hope that after they enter the Sorcerer God Holy City, they will be treated well. They will not be mistreated. If I find out that they have been mistreated in any way, I will definitely go to the Sorcerer God Holy City and ask for justice. Lu Yingying frowned. This young man's cultivation was ordinary, but his tone was not small. Don't worry. After all, I am Huxley's clansman. I will not mistreat my own people. Moreover, as the Taoist companion of the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader, I have a say in the Sorcerer God Holy City. Lu Yingying said calmly. And what we said is true. Disciple really saved us. He is Huxley's benefactor. If it were not for him, we would not have survived. Shan Lingyun said anxiously. Sa Mei, Tuo Xing, and the others also spoke up for Zhuowen. Lu Yingying smiled. Ling Yun, the Sorcerer God Holy City is not the Sorcerer God Holy City. That is the Sorcerer God Holy City. It is basically impossible for non-members of the Sorcerer God Holy City to enter. I spent a lot of effort to get the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader to accept you. If there are other people now, I am afraid that the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader will not agree. Moreover, if you want to meet in the future, you can meet in the Sorcerer God Holy City. There are no restrictions. Zhuowen also stepped forward and rubbed Shan Lingyun's head gently. He smiled and said, Senior Lu is right. After all, this is not Huxley. When you go back, you have to listen to Senior Lu. She will definitely protect you. Shan Lingyun curled her lips, and her big watery eyes had already turned red. Her eyes were already filled with a hazy mist. My disciple, you have to wait for me. I still want to go to the New Realm with you. You can't go alone. Otherwise, I will not forgive you. Shan Lingyun's eyes were red. She waved her little fist at Zhuowen and said fiercely, Ha! I can't go against my master's orders. I dare not go alone, Zhuowen said with a smile. Zhuowen then said goodbye to Sa Mei, Tuoxing, and the others. They then followed Lu Yingying and left the Sorcerer God Holy City. I thought you were going to follow us to the Sorcerer God Holy City. Now, it seems like I was thinking too much. In the inn, a man in a black robe walked to Zhuowen's side. He looked at the backs of Shan Lingyun and the others and said in a low and hoarse voice, Brother Duan, it's time to do our business. How's the information gathering going? Zhuowen asked calmly. It's almost done. Just now, the little girl said that you killed Psycho Hongfei. Is that true? Duan Jipeng asked curiously. Do you think it's true or not? Zhuowen asked. Duan Jipeng shrugged and said, How would I know? After all, you are only at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation realm. It's a little exaggerated to say that you killed an elite who had undergone the great tribulation of universe. Zhuowen smiled and did not explain. He said, Let's plan for the upcoming battle in the tomb in these few days. We can only win this trip. Lu Yingying returned to the Sorcerer God Holy City. After settling Shan Lingyun and the others down, she went to the Sorcerer God Grand Hall. In the Sorcerer God Grand Hall stood a tall and sturdy figure. He was the current leader of the Sorcerer God clan, Emoliohua. Husband. Lu Yingying bowed deeply to the figure and said respectfully. Emoliohua slowly turned around. He was wearing a golden silk robe and had long dark red hair. Although he looked to be over 50 years old, he had an imposing aura. Yingying, I will only tolerate your stubbornness this time. After settling down Huxley's people, you have to watch over them at all times. They are not allowed to wander around the Sorcerer God Holy City. If I find out that Huxley's people are not allowed to go where they should go, don't blame me for being merciless. Emoliohua looked at Lu Yingying and said in a deep voice. Chapter 41:17. In the following period of time, Zhuowen basically stayed in the inn to cultivate, while Duan Jipeng was basically not in the inn. Instead, he was preparing for the Battle of the Tomb. Time gradually passed, and half a month quietly passed. Finally, on this day, Duan Jipeng knocked on Zhuowen's door. Brother Zhuo, the specific location of the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse has finally been found. As soon as he entered the door, Duan Jipeng excitedly said to Zhuowen without beating around the bush. Zhuowen was excited. He lowered his voice and asked, Brother Duan, where is the tomb? Duan Jipeng took out a jade slip and handed it to Zhuowen. He whispered, The specific location of the tomb is in this jade slip. I spent a lot of money to get it from a friend in the Sorcerer God City. There's no doubt about it. You got the news from the Sorcerer God City? That means. Zhuowen frowned. You guessed right. The first to know about the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse was the Sorcerer God clan. Originally, the Sorcerer God clan planned to monopolize the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse, but they didn't expect that the news of the tomb would suddenly be exposed. There are many realms around the sorcerer god realm, and even some geniuses on the outer realm heavenly list, who are also interested in this matter. That's why the sorcerer god city is so lively. Duan Jipeng smiled faintly. Then how many people know the specific location of the tomb of the cosmic Dharma powerhouse? Zhuowen had a bad feeling. Since Duan Jipeng could get the specific location, it was obvious that other powerhouses in the Great Carefree Realm could also get it. There should be a lot. After all, I'm just a rogue cultivator. Some of the real big forces have corresponding channels to get this information. The competition this time is definitely not small. You have to be careful, Duan Jipeng said with a serious expression. In fact, he was still a little worried about Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's cultivation was a little low. This battle for the tomb was bound to have experts in the great calamity of heaven and earth. If Zhuowen encountered such an opponent, he would be in danger. Zhuowen smiled faintly and did not say anything. Although his cultivation was only at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation realm, his strength was definitely not weak. In addition, his array Dao had just broken through to the first firmament of the eternal grade. Ordinary universe tribulation experts might not be able to take him down. Let's go. Let's go to the tomb first, Duan Jipeng suggested. Zhuowen nodded. The two of them left the inn and quickly left Sorcerer God City. According to the reliable information Duan Jipeng had obtained, the grave was located at a place called Snow Flame Valley, tens of billions of kilometers north of Sorcerer God City. The Snow Flame Valley was an extremely famous perilous place in the magical domain. It was extremely dangerous. It was said that any cultivator below the Great Carefree Realm would die without a doubt if they entered. When Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng arrived at a wide open space in the outskirts of the Snowflame Valley, they were shocked to discover that many people had already gathered there. Moreover, these people had set up their immortal mansions in the open space. It seemed that they intended to stay here. What made Zhuowen's expression even more solemn was that the group of people in the open space all had extremely powerful auras. Many of them were even great Carefree Realm cultivators. Even the weakest among them was at the Ancient Star Transformation Realm. How dare a junior of the Ancient Star Transformation Realm be so presumptuous? Do you want to die? Suddenly, in the middle of the open space, an unfriendly shout attracted the attention of everyone present. Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng were also attracted by the shout and couldn't help but look over there. In front of an immortal mansion in the middle of the open space, a purple-haired youth stood quietly, staring indifferently at a white-haired old man standing in the immortal mansion. The purple-haired youth was extremely beautiful. His skin was even fairer and smoother than most female cultivators. If it weren't for his prominent Adam's apple, it would be easy to mistake him for a guy dressed up as a man. Just now, the owner of the loud shout was the old man standing in the immortal mansion. At this moment, the old man stared at the purple-haired youth with an extremely unfriendly gaze. The aura on his body was like an abyss, rolling down and crushing down, causing the surrounding pressure to suddenly skyrocket. The cultivators who had gathered in the surroundings all fled far away with fear in their eyes, not daring to approach. It's the Black Bamboo Old Man. This is a big shot in the early stage of the universe Great Tribulation. I didn't expect him to come too. Old Man Black Bamboo was a rogue cultivator who did not belong to any sect. His actions were the most shameless and unreasonable. He was also a vengeful person. Even many of the realm guardians of the lower realms were not willing to become enemies with Old Man Black Bamboo. What is the background of this young man? Looking at his aura, he is only at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm. He actually dares to provoke the Black Bamboo Old Man. Isn't that courting death? Many of the people present recognized the identity of the Black Bamboo Old Man. Therefore, they looked at the purple-haired youth with some pity. Zhuowen took another look at the purple-haired youth. It was not because of the youth's excessively beautiful face, but because of the youth's calm expression. This expression was as if he did not place the black bamboo old man in front of him in his eyes at all. Old man Black Bamboo, I've said it before. I've taken a fancy to your position. It's not too late for you to scram now. Otherwise, you might not even have the chance to scram later. Just when everyone thought that the purple-haired youth would kneel down and beg for mercy from the black bamboo old man, the purple-haired youth finally spoke. However, the words that he said caused everyone to be charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Could it be that this youth has gone crazy? You're just an ancient star transformation trash. What right do you have to say such shameless words to an expert of the universe's great tribulation? This was not only what everyone thought, but also what the black bamboo old man thought. Little bastard, you're courting death. The black bamboo old man was so angry that he trembled. He reached out his right hand into the air, and then ruthlessly pressed down on Zhuowen. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying divine power condensed in the air and transformed into a huge illusory mountain that blasted towards the purple-haired youth. The black bamboo old man's eyes were filled with contempt. After all, he was an expert of the universe's great tribulation. It was naturally impossible for him to use his full strength against a mere peak ancient star transformation cultivator. In his opinion, a casual strike was enough to destroy the youth before him. However, the black bamboo old man did not see the mocking smile on the purple-haired youth's face. Suddenly, the purple-haired youth drew the long sword at his waist and quickly slashed out. A purple sword light shot out like a waterfall. It turned into a purple river and slammed into the illusory mountain. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, the illusory mountain was annihilated by the purple sword light. The moment the illusory mountain was annihilated, the purple-haired youth took a step forward and shot out like lightning. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the black bamboo old man. Before anyone could react, the purple-haired youth had already brushed past the black bamboo old man. Clang. The purple-haired youth slowly sheathed his long sword and revealed a trace of an evil smile. Chapter 41:18. What a fast and sharp sword! Zhuowen looked at the purple-haired youth's back and his eyes became extremely serious. At that moment, he actually couldn't see the purple-haired youth's figure clearly. He could only vaguely see a little bit of afterimage. It should be known that Zhuowen's divine sense was much stronger than that of an ancient star transformation cultivator. Even many early-stage Qiankuan tribulation cultivators' divine senses were not necessarily as sharp as his. But he couldn't see the purple-haired youth's movements clearly. This meant that the purple-haired youth's speed was far beyond Zhuowen's expectations. Zhuowen looked at the purple-haired youth's long sword that was already sheathed at his waist. If he didn't sense it wrong, this long sword should be a very powerful astral weapon. There was an uproar in the open space. Everyone looked at the purple-haired youth in disbelief. A mere ancient star transformation cultivator actually cut off the arms of a Qiankuan tribulation cultivator. This was too unbelievable. Black bamboo old man's face was pale. He stared at the purple-haired youth's back and asked in a trembling voice, "You? Who are you?" "Old man, don't think that you're invincible just because you've entered the great carefree realm. In my eyes, trash from a low-level world like you don't know the true meaning of the great carefree realm. Even if you use all your strength, I can still defeat you and even kill you." The purple-haired youth slowly turned around. The evil smile on his lips grew wider. He continued, "Right, my name is Ziyu." The moment they heard Ziyu's name, most of the cultivators in the open space exclaimed in surprise. "Ziyu? Could it be Ziyu who is ranked 5th on the Outer Realm celestial list? I didn't expect that this existence would also come here to compete for the tomb of a cosmic Dharma cultivator." The tomb of a cosmic Dharma cultivator is really attractive. Even Ziyu is here. I'm afraid that many geniuses on the outer realm celestial list are here. Black Bamboo Old Man trembled. He didn't expect that the person he randomly met would be ranked 5th on the outer realm celestial list. One had to know that the top 10 of the outer realm heavenly ranking had records of killing powerhouses in the universe calamity. All of them were extremely terrifying geniuses. This Ziyu was ranked 5th on the outer realm celestial list. Her strength was definitely above Black Bamboo Lousy's. It was not impossible for her to kill him. What made Black Bamboo even more afraid was the huge power behind Ziyu. The geniuses on the outer realm heaven leaderboard were basically all nurtured by the true major forces of the outer realm 100 domains. Each of them had a strong background. Ziyu came from one of the super domains, the Xiling domain. The power behind it was enormous, and was not something that the Black Bamboo Old Man could afford to offend. Now, do you still think I'm courting death? Ziyu said slowly. Plop. He Zhu simply knelt on the ground and constantly kowtowed to Ziyu, begging her not to pursue him. Ziyu waved her hand and said coldly, "Get up. I'm only interested in your position. I don't want to kill you. Now scram." Black Bamboo Lousy breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly scrammed. He didn't even dare to take back his immortal residence. Ziyu didn't feel any guilt at all. She openly stayed in Black Bamboo Lousy's immortal residence, leaving the surrounding people staring at each other. As expected of a genius on the outer realm heavenly ranking, she has such terrifying battle strength at the ancient star transformation. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Duan Jipeng stood beside Zhuowen and was full of emotion. Zhuowen also nodded in agreement. Ziyu's strength was absolutely top-notch. Even if it was Zhuowen, he might still have the strength to fight against Ziyu if he had to use all his trump cards. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be Ziyu's opponent. Is a super domain really so powerful? The juniors that they nurture are actually so terrifying. Zhuowen muttered to himself. From the discussions of the surrounding people, he also knew that Ziyu came from a super domain. If it was a lower domain like the Hushu domain or the Wu God domain, they definitely wouldn't be able to produce a monstrous genius like Ziyu. However, the Xiling domain was able to nurture one. It could be seen how powerful and terrifying a super domain was. The higher the level of a domain, the stronger its foundation and the more outstanding its people are. And the younger generation cultivated by the Invincible Domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy are even more terrifying. It's just that the younger generation of the Invincible Domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy are more low-key. They have never competed for the outer realm heavenly ranking. Therefore, there are no young cultivators from the Invincible Domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy on the outer realm heavenly ranking. If they want to compete, the rankings on the outer realm heavenly ranking will probably change dramatically, Duan Jipeng said in a low voice. Ziyu. How awe-inspiring. You repelled an expert at the initial stage of the universe tribulation as soon as you arrived. This is really like your style. You pick the weak ones when picking bones. A slightly mocking voice sounded out from afar. Everyone looked over and saw a young man wearing a mask. He stepped through the air and slowly landed beside Ziyu's immortal mansion. Suzhou, I didn't expect you to come too. Ziyu walked out of the immortal mansion and looked at the masked young man with fear. Suzhou? Could it be Suzhou, who is ranked 4th on the outer realm heavenly ranking? He is a genius more powerful than Ziyu. I didn't expect even him to come. This is really unexpected. When Ziyu called out the masked young man's name, there was another uproar in the open space. Suzhou smiled gently. Aren't you going to invite me in to have a seat when you see an old friend? Ziyu narrowed her eyes and smiled. Brother Suzhou, please follow me into the house. After Suzhou and Ziyu entered the immortal mansion, the surrounding uproar not only didn't lessen, but became even more serious. Brother Joie, the two friends I made an appointment with have arrived. Come with me to meet them. We have more people in this battle for the tomb. We can take care of each other and greatly reduce the risk. Duan Jipeng suddenly said to Zhuowen. Zhuowen thought for a moment and nodded. Thus, the two of them quietly left the open space. In a dense bamboo forest about 7 or 8 kilometers away from the open space, two figures had been waiting there for a long time. These two figures were a man and a woman. The man didn't look old, about 30 years old. He was dressed in a gray robe and looked very capable and energetic. The woman was exceptionally enchanting and charming. Her pair of narrow phoenix eyes were exceptionally seductive. What was even rarer was that the aura of this man and woman was extremely vast. Although it was slightly inferior to Duan Jipeng's, it wasn't too far off. They were probably late-stage experts of the Qiankuan Great Tribulation. When Duan Jipeng and Zhuowen arrived at the bamboo forest, the man and woman greeted them with a smile. Lin Long and his wife, on the other hand, had undisguised sneers on their faces. They were rather disdainful of Zhuowen's words. After the two sides reached an agreement, they came to the open space outside the Snow Flame Valley. In order not to attract attention, the four of them set up a simple immortal residence in the corner of the open space and stayed there temporarily. As time passed, more and more cultivators came to the open space outside the Snow Flame Valley. There was no lack of strong cultivators from the Great Qiankuan Tribulation. In addition, there were many geniuses from the Outer Realm Heavenly List, such as Fu Di, who was ranked 10th, Shenan, who was ranked 15th, and Zhao Tianyi, who was ranked 20th. There were more than 10 geniuses from the Outer Realm Heavenly List who came this time. Among them, there were 3 in the top 10, 2 in the top 20, and the rest were not in the top 20. None of them could be underestimated. In addition, there were many protectors from the outer realm. Of course, these protectors were from the lower realms. Naturally, the true masters of the intermediate and advanced domains would not be interested in this tomb of a cosmic Dharma adept. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that the Nuwa clan had also come. However, the people from the Nuwa clan who came this time were not the strong cultivators of the Nuwa clan, but the younger generation of the Nuwa clan. The leader of the Nuwa clan team was a genius who was ranked 72nd on the Outer Realm Heavenly List. His name was Lai Rong. Lai Rong was a young man who looked no more than 20 years old. His face was handsome and as gentle as jade. From afar, he looked more like a gentleman. In addition, the team that Lai Rong brought was basically made up of the younger generation of the Nuwa clan. The only thing that caught Zhuowen's attention was the middle-aged man beside Lai Rong. From the aura of the middle-aged man, his cultivation was probably not much weaker than Duan Jipeng's. Obviously, Lai Rong's status in the Nuwa clan was not low. He even had a strong cultivator at the peak of the Great Qiankuan Tribulation protecting him. Nuwa clan, I've been pursued so miserably all these years. It's time for the Nuwa clan to pay a price. When Lai Rong and the others arrived at the periphery of the Snowflame Valley, Duan Jipeng walked out of the immortal abode like a cat that had smelled blood. He looked coldly at Lai Rong and the others. Brother Joie, if there's a chance, I must kill these people from the Nuwa clan. Can you hold Lai Rong back? Duan Jipeng suddenly looked at Zhuowen cautiously and asked. Zhuowen did not speak. Instead, he flipped his right hand. Instantly, lines of formation patterns appeared in his palm. With Zhuowen's current level of formation skills, he had long surpassed the level of relying on formation discs to set up formations. He had already reached the level where he could condense extremely powerful formation patterns at will. What a powerful formation power! This is... Brother Zhua, so you're a half-step eternal level formation god master. Duan Jipeng was overjoyed. Zhuowen put away the formation patterns in his palm. These half-step eternal level formation patterns were casually set up by Zhuowen. Duan Jipeng did not know much about formation god masters. After all, it was impossible for a half-step eternal level formation god master to set up half-step eternal level formation patterns at will. Only a true eternal level formation god master could do that. Of course, Zhuowen did not deliberately explain. With Brother Zhua's help, this Nuwa clan team will not be able to escape. Duan Jipeng was in a good mood and was quite excited. In the next few days, the Snowflame Valley had not been completely opened. The number of cultivators in the open space increased, and the excess territory decreased. Chapter 41:20. Soon, the silence of the Snowflame Valley was completely broken by the arrival of a team. This team was from the Witchcraft God Clan. The leaders were the clan leader of the Witchcraft God Clan, Emolyohua, and the Domain Guardian, Mo-Fut. No one expected that the only two great carefree realm experts of the Witchcraft God domain would come. It was clear that the Witchcraft God Clan attached great importance to this battle for the tomb. Clan leader Mo, we've been waiting here for so long. I think it's time for you to open the Snowflame Valley. After the Witchcraft God Clan team arrived, a green-robed elder slowly walked out of his immortal abode and spoke slowly. His voice was as loud as a bell, spreading throughout the Snowflame Valley. The green-robed elder's aura was extremely vast, not much weaker than Duan Jipeng's. Clearly, he was also an expert at the peak of the Cosmos Tribulation. After the green-robed elder spoke, the experts of the Cosmos Tribulation all walked out of their respective immortal abodes and looked at the Witchcraft God Clan team with unfriendly eyes. The entrance to the Snowflame Valley had always been mysterious. Even most of the practitioners of the Witchcraft God domain found it difficult to find the real entrance. The Snowflame Valley was surrounded by an extremely powerful natural restriction. It was said that the restriction had reached the eternal level. Even an expert of the great carefree realm might not be able to find it in a short time. The entrance. Most of the practitioners of the Witchcraft God domain knew that although the entrance to the natural restriction was mysterious, it had always been in the hands of the higher-ups of the Witchcraft God Clan. As long as the Witchcraft God Clan was willing to open the real entrance to the Snowflame Valley, they could all enter the Snowflame Valley. Of course, although the natural restriction was powerful, there was no lack of experts of the Cosmos Tribulation here. If they could overcome all difficulties and join forces, even the natural restriction could be destroyed by force. However, they did not take action for a long time. Firstly, it was because these people came from various forces and their hearts were not united. Secondly, they were worried that if they forcefully destroyed the natural restriction, it might destroy the Snowflame Valley and affect the birth of the Snowflame Valley. The tomb of the cosmic Dharma experts. Everyone understood that they had gathered outside the Snowflame Valley these days mainly to wait for the people of the Witchcraft God domain to arrive. As long as the people of the Witchcraft God domain were willing to open the Snowflame Valley, it would naturally be a happy ending. All eyes fell on Emolyohua and Emofayu, who were at the front of the Witchcraft God Clan team. They knew that the right to make the decision now. Emolyohua and Emofingyo's faces turned extremely grave. They naturally understood the stakes involved. If they could not give a satisfactory answer, the experts gathered here would likely gang up on them. Everyone, we can understand your feelings. We will naturally open the Snowflame Valley. Emolyohua said in a low voice. Valley, 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 because Lyohua you cosmos God domain. Valley, 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 valley. Hua valley, 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 God. Valley, 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 valleys, valley. Valley, 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 God, God domain, God, God domain. Liohua O, God Valley Valley. As long as you are willing to open up the Snow Flame Valley, as long as your request is not too excessive, we will naturally agree, the green-robed elder who spoke at the beginning replied. On the empty ground, everyone gently nodded their heads, agreeing with the green-robed elder's words. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma expert is about to be born in the Snow Flame Valley. I think everyone knows about this. Our request is not too much. If the Witchcraft God clan can enter the deepest part of the tomb, we ask to be the first to choose. We can choose a treasure. The rest of the treasures will depend on our own ability. How about that? Emoliohua said indifferently. Everyone was in an uproar when they heard this. In their opinion, Emoliohua's request was a little too much. Of course, this was for the cosmic tribulation experts. For most ancient star transformation cultivators, it did not affect them. After all, they were only ancient star transformation cultivators and could not compete with the cosmic tribulation expert. Therefore, they could only pick up the treasures outside the tomb. If you don't agree, the Witchcraft God clan has a backbone. Even if both sides suffer losses, we will not easily compromise. Emoliohua said in a low voice. Faced with Emoliohua's rather unyielding attitude, everyone frowned without leaving a trace. The green-robed elder thought for a while and said calmly, "There is a premise. There must be at least 3 treasures in the deepest part of the tomb. We can allow the Sorcerer clan to have the priority to choose one." After the green-robed elder made this suggestion, no one present objected. Obviously, they all agreed with this suggestion. Okay. Emoliohua nodded. Since we have reached an agreement, clan leader Emo, why don't you open the Snow Flame Valley? Ziyu said impatiently. Next, Emoliohua and Emo Fengyu looked at each other. They each took out a jade token and came to a remote cliff in the Snow Flame Valley. The two of them formed hand seals and sent waves of divine power into their respective jade tokens. The dense and complicated patterns on the jade tokens began to light up and then turned into 2 snakes of light. They quickly intertwined and rushed into the Snow Flame Valley. After about 10 breaths of time, a beam of light shot out of the Snow Flame Valley. It pierced the clouds and pierced the sky. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the beam of light actually bent downwards, landing on the cliff where Emoliohua and the others were. This beam of light is the passageway into the Snow Flame Valley. Everyone, our Witchcraft God clan will go first. Emoliohua casually explained and led the Witchcraft God clan team into the Snow Flame Valley through the beam of light. This Emoliohua is really cunning. He took advantage of the fact that we are not familiar with the entrance and rushed into the Snow Flame Valley first. Duan Jiping could not help but curse. Many cultivators in the open space were also rather dissatisfied. However, after their dissatisfaction, their eyes were filled with intense passion. The Snow Flame Valley is finally open. Let's rush in. After a short delay, everyone in the open space rushed into the beam of light and was sent into the Snow Flame Valley by the power of the beam of light. Even the experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth were unwilling to fall behind and rushed in at the first moment. Brother Zhua, Brother Lin, and Miss Linglong, let's go in too. Remember, we should be together at all times. Don't fall behind. Duan Jiping said to Zhuowen and the other two in a low voice. Lin Long and his wife looked at Zhuowen disdainfully and nodded cautiously at Duan Jiping. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.